Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, Prem Saror Prabhu will be reading from Lilamrita, chapter 51.
The next morning, Tamakrishna Goswami and Giriraj were prepared well in advance for their meeting with the Prime Minister. Before leaving, they asked Prabhupada what books they should give him. Prabhupada replied, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna book, and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. In Hindi, asked Giriraj. Prabhupada frowned, no, English. The devotees went in their car to pick up Mr. Rajda at his flat. From there, they would go to the apartment on Marine Drive where Prime Minister Desai was staying. After Giriraj had been ringing the front bell about 20 minutes, Mr. Rajda finally appeared. He said that they had to wait 5 more minutes while he continued dressing and eating. Unfortunately, by the time they reached the apartment on Marine Drive, it was 8 o'clock. They were 30 minutes late. As soon as they entered, the Prime Minister said, "You are very late." He was already meeting with some other people and that he would see the devotees for a few minutes. He repeated that he had been waiting since 7:25. The devotees remained silent, not knowing what to say. They apologized and gave him Prabhupada books. Mr. Desai didn't say much and quickly excused himself, going back to his meetings with the others. When the devotees returned to the temple, Prabhupada eagerly asked what happened. He was very upset that they had been late. Very bad, he said. He remarked that Murarji Desai was known for his punctuality. They had missed a great opportunity, he said, by their misbehavior. When the devotee explained that Mr. Rasta had made them late, Prabhupada asked for a more detailed report. The devotee said the main thing Murarji Desai wanted to know was why they were late. Did you tell him that Ratan Singh Rasta made you late? Giriraj, Tamakrishna shook their heads. Prabhupada became disgusted and said, "Why did he not say that he had made you late? That you were on time, but he made you late. I know you are thinking that he is our friend and you did not want to embarrass him in front of the Prime Minister, but now the whole thing is spoiled." Feeling very foolish and ashamed, the devotee sat silently before Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada reflected for a moment. Anyway, he said, these men will never change their views. Srila Prabhupada occasionally talked of traveling to a place better for his health. It was May, and Bombay was hot. Soon the monsoons would come. He had considered going to Kashmir because the air and water were reportedly good for health, but no suitable accommodations could be found there, and the weather was too cool. Then one day he received a visit from Sriman Narayan, the former governor of Gujarat. "You should take care of your health," said Sriman Narayan. "I hope you get better." "Oh, this is just an old machine. The more you cure it, the more it gets worse. But my work never stops. That keeps on going. My main work is to write these books, and that is going on. Several other Indian guests were present, and they at once began recommending good places for health: Srinagar, Kashmir, Dehradun, Mussoorie, Simla, Hardwar. Yes, the water in Hardwar is good, said Sriman Narayan, but better than that would be Rishikesh, where the Ganges flow. Whatever places are on the bank of the Ganges, the water will be very good. Pure Ganges water. Srila Prabhupada took this remark seriously and turned to his disciples. Yet, then we can go to Rishikesha. This time is very good. Let us arrange for that. From that moment, going to Rishikesha became a definite plan, and Prabhupada prepared to leave Bombay within a week. Chapter 52. I have done my part. The first week in Rishikesh was idyllic, heavenly, with perfect weather and hopes of Prabhupada eating and recovering. But on the eighth night, a violent storm hit, and with the storm became a drastic turn in Prabhupada's health. He said that God was near. He asked to go immediately to Vrindavan in case Krishna wanted him to depart from the world very soon. The devotees in Rishikesha had been in high spirits. So had Srila Prabhupada. While crossing the Ganges by boat, Srila Prabhupada had requested drinking water to be fetched from the center of the river. He had liked the lodge provided by his host, and he had even gone into the kitchen to show his disciples how to cook. Word had spread through the pilgrimage tourist town that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami was present, and Prabhupada had agreed to hold a darshana from 5 to 6 p.m. daily. The room had always been crowded at that hour with 40 to 50 people, including Western hippies and seekers, as well as Indians on pilgrimage or vacation. Although Srila Prabhupada's voice had been extremely faint, he has spoken with force, stressing Bhagavad Gita as it is. When an American hippie had questioned him skeptically, Prabhupada had replied, "You cannot understand because you're crazy." And when a lady had put forward materialistic welfare work as the highest good, Prabhupada replied, "Your compassion is as valuable as blowing on a boil to heal it." Only a few disciples were with Prabhupada in Rishikesh, and they deemed it a wonderful treat. Not only had Prabhupada directed the cooking, but he had also told stories while cooking. He had said that only a lazy man couldn't cook, and then he told a Bengali story, the story of a lazy man, to illustrate. There was a king who decided that all lazy men in his kingdom could come to the charity house and be fed. So many people came, all claiming, "I am a lazy man." The king then told his minister to set fire to the charity house, and all but two men ran out of the burning building. One of the two said, "My back is becoming very hot from the fire," and the other advised, "Just turn over to the other side." King then said, "These are actually lazy men, feed them." But on the evening of May 15th, Srila Prabhupada could neither sleep nor work at his dictation. The storm, a harbinger of the monsoon season, knocked out all electric power in Rishikesh. Since the fans were not running, window shutters had to be closed because of the wind. The room became very hot. At 5 in the morning, Srila Prabhupada called for Tamal Krishna Goswami and said he was feeling weak. Tamal Krishna messaged Prabhupada for an hour. Even at dawn, the wind did not let up, sand was blowing. Storm and power failure continuing the next night. Tamal Krishna asked Prabhupada about the swelling in his hand and feet. Prabhupada replied, "Why are you bothering? It is my body and I'm not disturbed." But then he added, "From the material point of view, it is not good. Please consider how everything may be turned over to GBC, so that in my absence, everything will go on. You may make a will and I will sign it." He was definitely talking definitely about things that before he had not only alluded to. Suddenly at 1:30 a.m., Prabhupada rang his bell, and Tamal Krishna and Chora Gopinath responded. From beneath his mosquito net, he said, I was telling you the symptoms are not good. I want to leave immediately for Vrindavan. If it was time for him to pass away, he said, then let it be in Vrindavan. Then he wanted to leave immediately. The devotees stayed up all night, packing and preparing to leave. Train reservations were not available, however, they decided to go by car. Srila Prabhupada rode in the back seat of small ambassador, sometimes stretching out on the seat. Upendra sat on his feet on the floor, while Taman Krishna sat in the front next to Damodar Pandit, an experienced driver who drove fast but with utmost care. Often Damodar Pandit would glance into the rear view mirror and meet Prabhupada's attentive gaze. At one point, when Prabhupada saw a man selling cucumbers, he asked Damodar to stop the car. Cucumbers, he said, were good for quenching thirst. After 4.5 hours, they reached Delhi and stopped at the ISKCON Center in Lajpat Nagar. It was very hot. The devotees watered down the roof, and Srila Prabhupada rested there on a cot. By 5 the next morning, they were ready to set out for Vrindavan. At the Delhi temple, the devotees had given Prabhupada a large plate of deities prasadam, but only taken a few tastes. Eating is finished, he said, I prayed to Krishna to be freed from eating and sleeping, and it is happening. I've already given up mating and defending. Now all these material activities are finished with. As they drove out of the city into the countryside, Tamal Krishna noticed that Srila Prabhupada seemed more peaceful. He looked very happy to be going to Vrindavan, said Tamal Krishna. Yes, Prabhupada replied, Vrindavan is my home and Bombay is my office. As they turned off the Delhi Agra road, Srila Prabhupada saw for the first time the store-made marker Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. They soon met up with Gurnarnava, who was waiting on a motorcycle, and he joyfully sped ahead to tell the devotees at the Krishna Balaram Mandir that Srila Prabhupada was here. At the gate of a temple, a big kirtan party, including all the Gurukul children, was gathered to greet Prabhupada with chanting and dancing. 4 devotees carried Prabhupada on a palanquin to the temple hall, where he offered his respects to the two lords, Krishna and Balaram. After the Arti ceremony, honoring Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada spoke briefly to the assembled devotees. If death takes place, he said, let it take place here. Seeing his banner and hearing him speak these unexpected words, some of the devotees in the room began to cry. So he continued, there is nothing to be said new. Whatever I have to say, I have spoken in my books. Now try to understand it, continue your endeavors. Whether I'm present or not present, it doesn't matter. As Krishna is living eternally, similarly, the living beings also live eternally. But Kirti Yasya Yavati, one who has done service to the Lord lives forever. So we have been taught to serve Krishna, so with Krishna our life is eternal. The temporary disappearance of the body, it doesn't matter. The body is meant for disappearance. So live forever by serving Krishna. Despite the finality of these words, Srila Prabhupada continued to converse in his room with a few guests who remained after most of the devotees had left. A retired family man, Mr. Bose, was present and told Prabhupada how he was now living alone in the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Prabhupada said he will not be able to adjust to this way of life. But when Mr. expressed his determination, Prabhupada added, you have a very good family, so it is hopeful. Srila Prabhupada went on to recall some of his activities at Rishikesha and he spoke of how his movement was growing stronger around the world and how in New York the judge had made a very favorable decision. A little later, the conversation turned to ghosts, and Prabhupada told about the haunted house of Loknath Malik in Calcutta. Prabhupada had also rented a ghost house in Lucknow. I am not afraid of ghosts. I am ghost proof. In England, there are so many ghosts. They are generally evil and sometimes they even kill. They can be seen sometimes entering a latrine or sitting on a pillar. By offering pinda, one can free his forefathers from ghostly bodies. In Mayapur, there were Mohammedan ghosts, but not anymore. By our chanting Hare Krishna, ghosts are driven away. Prabhupada began a routine. In the morning, he would ride in the car at least a short distance down Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. Although even riding was difficult for him, the morning air would be fresh and cool compared to the heat of the day, and the road lined with neem trees and shrubs was pleasant. Each morning he would come back and faithfully, lovingly behold Krishna and Balaram. Then he would sit or rest in his main room, later move upstairs, where a desk and a chair as well as bed were set up on the outer veranda of his house. Here also the devotee had thrown water on the floors for cooling. His main room downstairs had an air cooler. Srila Prabhupada was still prone to become involved in management and he asked his secretary to report to him on the various ISKCON activities. He became my eyes, he said, but to think that Bombay projects was not yet completed disturbed him very much. I have worked so far to get done whatever is accomplished, he told Tamala Krishna. Now, if the deities were not properly installed in my presence, it would be a great shock. But ISKCON management was too much botheration, and Prabhupada told Tamala Krishna, you must give me complete relief from management. Tamala Krishna mentioned that Prabhupada would sometimes become upset if he was not informed about ISKCON management. But Prabhupada thought better not to inform him. Said better not to inform him. Now take it that I am dead, he said. Tamal Krishna took his remark to mean that the leaders of ISKCON should manage all problems just as if Prabhupada were no longer present. They should relieve him so he would be free to think of Krishna and Balaram. Prabhupada confirmed that this was the right idea. Give me that chance. After one day in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada wrote, I was staying in Rishikesha hoping to improve my health, but instead I've become a little weaker. Now I've come back to my home Vrindavan. If anything should go wrong, at least I will be here in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada called for Tamal Krishna Goswami. There are two things he said, quote, trying to survive and to prepare for death. It is better to plan for the worst. Arrange to always have 3 to 4 men with me. Have kirtan and reading Bhagavatam all the time. I'm trying to take little food. Parikshit Maharaj would not even take water. Seeing Srila Prabhupada's mood, Tamal Krishna mentioned the need for a will, and Prabhupada agreed. A will, he said, was simple enough. Whatever he spoke, several men could sign as witnesses. He recalled how his spiritual master, just before a hernia operation, had made a similar, very simple will on a scrap paper. Although he never underwent that operation, years later the same will was presented in court and was accepted as evidence against the plot of some of the disciples. He was the original founder, said Prabhupada. So whatever he wills, that is accepted. When Tamal Krishna asked why Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj had not undergone the operation, Prabhupada replied, everyone has their sentiment. He thought that the doctor was paid to kill him. Yes, said Tamal Krishna, because sometimes people were actually paid off to kill him. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, you and your Guru Maharaj were the greatest enemies of modern civilization in this century. Srila Prabhupada explained, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Bharat Bhumite Oile, this is India's culture. The whole world is in darkness. They're risking their life in the transmigration of one life, one body to another. He does not know what he is eternal, and that in a few years, he does not know that he is eternal, and that in a few years, this fragment is passing away. His life is just a passing flash. This is the Vaishnava's concern. What these rascals are doing, they are jumping like monkeys, wasting time. That is the Vaishnava's compassion. Para dukhe dukhito. When some other devotees gathered in Srila Prabhupada's room, Tamal Krishna explained Prabhupada's recent decision. So Srila Prabhupada had that the best medicine would be Srimad Bhagavatam and Kirtan, and no need of any doctors who have promised to help save the life. We shouldn't bring them and no outsiders. No medicine for the body, asked the devotee. Oh, whatever medicine I'm taking, said Srila Prabhupada. Yogendra Das, he has tried so many medicines, Tamal Krishna said. Every doctor has come and they have each given their medicine. And he has tried them. This medicine always works. Srimad Bhagavatam and Kirtan. Bhava Suddha Shrotra Mano Viramat quoted Srila Prabhupada. He had been quoting it again and again. It pleases the ear and the mind. Bhava Suddha Shrotra Mano Viramat. Ka Uttama Sloka Gunanu Vadat. Make glorification of Bhagwan, and everyone will appreciate it except the animal. At Srila Prabhupada's request, kirtanas by a group of no more than 4 or 5 devotees and Bhagavatam readings went on constantly. Whether he was in his room, on the veranda, or on the roof. In the morning from 5 to 10, in the evenings from 3 to 9, he would sit with his eyes closed, absorbed into kirtana, a medicine for the disease of material existence which gives pleasure to the mind and the ear. Tamal Krishna promised to Prabhupada he would read him no letters and bring him no visitors. Prabhupada had long wanted this, now it at least would come to pass. The writing of the will would not be done with the attitude that the end had come, but in the spirit of preparing for the worst. It also meant finishing things so they did not have to be done at the last minute. Prabhupada was concerned that his movement continue securely with all his properties in the possession of his disciples within the institution and all his instructions made clear for the future. These matters should be dispatched now in a will, and the GBC men should gather in Vrindavan to make these last arrangements and to be with him. Once these things are settled, Prabhupada would be free to continue writing his books with no worries. Tamal Krishna later asked Srila Prabhupada whether his new decisions indicated that he was losing his desire to fight to live. Srila Prabhupada indirectly admitted it was so. Therefore, he said, I do not wish to leave Vrindavan. If by Krishna's desire I survive, then we shall see later. Otherwise, even though his secretary did not read him letters or bring him news, Prabhupada went on thinking, how about Radha Damodar temple? He asked. He had been renting his rooms there for years, and the temple proprietors had often challenged his rights. This was just another of his multifarious worries in maintaining his preaching around the world. Prabhupada advised that his disciples always live in Radha Damodar rooms that would prevent the landlord from trying to use them for something else. Even while lying quietly, resting, Prabhupada would turn over such problems in his mind. Tamal Krishna wanted to double check to see that Prabhupada actually wanted all the GBC men from all over the world to come. It would be costly and demanding, so he wanted to be sure that Prabhupada really wanted it. When Prabhupada assured him that he did, Tamal Krishna, who saw his service as responding to whatever Srila Prabhupada desired, also spoke in favor of the idea. Because they love you, said Tamal Krishna, I am sure they will want to come and be with you. Your love for him, said Srila Prabhupada, will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone. Your love for me, said Srila Prabhupada, will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone. The room was fully decorated with rose and jasmine garlands. The Kirtan party was singing sweetly and softly. Srila Prabhupada would go for hours without speaking, and when he did speak, he was usually brief. Yet he covered the same range of topics as always, and in the same pure Krishna consciousness. Recalling the contractor's cheating in Mumbai, he said it is not only a sin to cheat, but it is also sinful to allow yourself to be cheated. With so much effort and difficulty, Both from my part and my disciples, the money has been collected and now it becomes spoiled. I cannot allow this. Srila Prabhupada would usually make comments such as this while lying in bed. As soon as he speaks, some of the devotees attending him would come close to catch his words, and sometimes the kirtana would stop. The parts of Prabhupada's daily schedule that remain the same as before, where he is rising in the middle of the night to translate Srimad Bhagavatam, his morning message and bathing, and his hearing news through his secretary. He had all but stopped his morning car ride as well as his darshan of the deities. Eating was almost near. He asked to be moved from his bed downstairs to the one upstairs, and sometimes he would sit at his desk. Tamal Krishna read Prabhupada a letter from Giriraj, more like a loving prayer than a letter. Giriraj had quoted a verse by Prahlad Maharaj from Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave this service? Srila Prabhupada was very affectionate towards Giriraj for his affectionate, faithful, fearless service, and he listened with great appreciation, closing his eyes and drinking every word of the prayer. That same evening, Srila Prabhupada sat up to receive a member of parliament, Sri Sitaram Singh. Although he was appreciative that a highly placed man was visiting, he spoke on the absolute plane, exposing material illusions. Immediately, he attacked the narrow mindedness of politicians with their party politics. He also exposed the rascaldom of politicians who claim to support nonviolence on the basis of Bhagavad Gita. At times like this, the devotees with Srila Prabhupada would almost forget that he was making preparations for the end of life. Later that night, after Mr. Singh had left, Prabhupada said, I can speak some more, or if Krishna desires, then whatever I have given already, that is all. Srila Prabhupada was unlimitedly willing to speak about Krishna and to help give Krishna consciousness to others. How much longer he would stay, how much more he would give was up to Krishna. With more time, he could carry he would carry out Krishna's will in the material world. But if Krishna's desire was that he should leave, then he would also accept that willingly. Even if he had to so depart from this world, he could not simply shut off his burning passion, his preaching spirit. Most of all, he desired that what he had started, a worldwide movement to save suffering souls, should continue. Word was sent to all GBC secretaries worldwide. Srila Prabhupada might depart very soon and he wanted them to be with him in Vrindavan. As soon as possible, the GBC men left their duties and came to him. The last time most of them had been with him was in February during the annual meeting in Mayapur. Ramal Krishna informed them of Srila Prabhupada's recent turns, how he had been preaching in Mumbai but not eating, how he had got to Sri Rishikesh and gotten worse, and how he had come to Vrindavan sensing that the end was soon. Ramakrishna had explained Srila Prabhupada had asked that he simply be administered the medicine of the holy name continually, and that GBC and sannyasis be gathered to chant with him, and that a will be made securing ISKCON properties, ensuring the continuation of the ISKCON institution. Tamal Krishna also mentioned that Prabhupada had said that the love for him would be shown by the cooperation in keeping ISKCON together after his years. Tamal Krishna Goswami confided to his grandbrothers that his own feelings were all mixed. It was time of sorrow, and yet Srila Prabhupada seemed relieved now that he had decided not to struggle to survive. Tamal Krishna said he couldn't but feel happy at Srila Prabhupada's relief from all concerns. Bhavanananda Goswami, one of the first GBC men to arrive, told the others how he had said to Prabhupada that on one hand he felt sad Prabhupada was departing, but also joyful that he would be able to leave this nasty material world and rejoin Krishna. Prabhupada had approved the sentiment, adding that although his Guru Maharaj had become disgusted at the end of his life due to the misbehavior of his leading disciples, he did not feel that. Rather, he liked the company of his disciples and felt they were doing their best in carrying out his order. But he also warned them not to spoil ISKCON and become another Gaudiya Math by splitting up. ISKCON leaders formed small groups and took turns in being with Prabhupada and chanting and reading with them. He would often be sitting up in bed in his main room downstairs, and the high ceilinged room with its black stone floor would be very deeply lit. Although though decorated with flowers and framed pictures of ISKCON deities. His room was comfortable despite the oppressive heat because of the air cooler and overhead fans. Sometimes Prabhupada would clap his hands softly to the kirtana and is always ready to hear and evaluate reports of his disciples' preaching. The main difference about Prabhupada was his physical appearance. As GBC man put it, he looked like one of the great ascetics depicted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, grown extremely thin like Dhruva Maharaj or Rantideva, who performed great austerities while wrapped in meditation on the absolute truth. Srila Prabhupada would alternately sit up in bed or lie down while hearing Kirtan or Srimad Bhagavatam. Now he was always surrounded by concerned disciples and he seemed happier. Some of the devotees who had been with him in Vrindavan just before all the GBC secretaries had arrived could see that he felt more encouraged. Perhaps by the sincere prayers of all the devotees, a dramatic change might come. Bhavananda Goswami and Jayapataka Goswami brought reports from Srila Prabhupada's beloved Mayapur project. Bhavananda said the temple was filled with transcendental activity and the Gurukula boys would chant Hare Krishna even while sweeping the roads. Work was just beginning on a new residence for Srila Prabhupada. It would be surrounded by mountains, by fountains, a terrace, and a big pond. It was not yet begun. Srila Prabhupada asked. Jayapat Goswami replied that the plans had been drawn and the architect said it would be no problem. They could build right through the rainy season. How long will it take? Tamal Krishna asked on Srila Prabhupada's behalf. 6 months. Srila Prabhupada said, Tamal Krishna, I think you are tied to this planet by the love of your devotees. Srila Prabhupada uttered a thoughtful, all right. Although Srila Prabhupada had indicated a will to live by saying, all right, to Bhavananda, he said there is no hope of life. Therefore, I've called the GBC if I can die in Vrindavan. Krishna can't accomplish anything, but from the physical condition, there is no hope. But Krishna is Parameshwar, Bhavananda said. Prabhupada laughed. That is another thing. If Krishna liked, then he would live. But Prabhupada wanted his disciples to understand the critical state of health. The brain is working, he said, but the body is not allowing. Don't worry, everyone will die today or tomorrow. I'm also an old man. There is nothing to be regretted. It is up to Krishna. Dropping his reassuring stance and pleading as a helpless student, Brahman Bhavanananda asked, what can we do, Srila Prabhupada? We can pray to Krishna, Prabhupada replied. Krishna is all powerful, and one of the most important things is that when I am gone, don't spoil it, keep it, Mayapur. Jayapataka Swami gave glowing accounts of his recent preaching to both Hindus and Muslims in Dhaka. There have been no sadhus in Bangladesh for years, said Jayapataka, speaking strongly and victoriously, sitting like a child at the foot of Srila Prabhupada's bed. People are eager to hear about Krishna consciousness. 10,000 people gathered. It was the biggest function in the history of the colony, either Hindu or Muhammad. The Mohammedans are also interested. They don't know anything about Lord Chaitanya. Many ask if we have any books on the life of Lord Chaitanya they like to read. That book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, said Srila Prabhupada interjected in a voice hoarse but full of life and interest. Jayapalka said they had prospects of getting a temple there. Many young men are coming and asking very intelligent questions, he said. They ask questions about our deity worship, about Guru, about Harinam. Very intelligent question. There is no CI or humor. There is no type of any bad talk about us, no envy at all. And because they are a little oppressed, they're always being challenged about believing in Krishna. So that is why they are eager to understand. What about the Mohammedans? Asked Srila Prabhupada. At one place, said Jayapataka, when Prabhupada Vishnu lectured in Dhaka, a Mohammedan heard, came to him and said, what you are preaching here is very applicable to the modern day. In my district, there is nearly a majority of Hindus, but when they have their sadhus come and preach there, I find it very old-fashioned, very unacceptable. But your preaching, we find enthusing. So he arranged a program. Ultimately, every Mahabharat that I have met has become interested just because it was presented in a way that was acceptable to them. They say, you are Hindus. We say, no, we are Vaishnava. Vaishnava means we believe in only one God. There is no one equal to him. So you believe in the same thing. That is a fact. Said Prabhupada, Asamadva. There cannot be anyone equal to God or greater than him. Many young men, both Hindu and Mohammedan, will join, said Jayapataka. I am sure, but right now we are getting the society registered and getting our place. We did not get that yet, Prabhupada asked. Get the place and get the society registered. Prabhupada added that Jayapataka should go do everything very seriously. It is increasing, he added approvingly. When Rameswara Swami came into the room for his kirtan, he brought Srila Prabhupada the newest edition of the Krishna book trilogies and reported how the various books were selling. Keep your health very nice, Srila Prabhupada said. Live as many years as possible. Be Krishna conscious. And next life you go back to home, permanent life. There is no cheating, no politics, no personal ambition to fulfill. There is not any tinge of any personal salvation. Now, can anyone point out here is a personal sense gratification? Can you say, here is my personal sense gratification? There is no such thing in Krishna consciousness. This is our desire. That we live with the devotees and execute the mission of our predecessor. This is our ambition. Without ambition, no one can live. Our real self-interest is to execute Krishna's desire. So do it very carefully. And if 1/4 of the Americans become Vaishnavas, then the whole world will change. The Americans now, Rameshwara said enthusiastically, the book selling has surpassed last year. We are trying to double. We have not yet doubled, but it has gone beyond last year. It is going to double, said Prabhupada. By your mercy, Rameshwara added. Yes, said Prabhupada. He doubly blessed. At these words, the devotees laughed happily. Srila Prabhupada then turned to Kirtananda Swami. So Vrindavan is developing. Be happy. We cannot be happy if we are not there, Kirtananda said. I am always there, Srila Prabhupada said. When I see that everything is going nicely, then I'm happy. Even with this body is body. We'll have next body. Wasn't it Puru who gave his father his youth? Said Kirtananda. Srila Prabhupada nodded. King Jayati traded his old age. And you can do that, said Kirtananda. No, why? Asked Srila Prabhupada. You're my body, then you can do it. There's no difference. Just like I'm working, so my Guru Maharaj is there. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Physically, he may not be, but in every action we do. In the Bhagavatam said Tamal Krishna, you say that for whoever follows the Guru lives with him eternally. So I'm not going to die, said Prabhupada. Kirti Yasha Jivati. One who does something substantial, he lives forever. He doesn't die. One has to accept another body according to his karma, but for a devotee, there is no such thing. He always accepts a body. For serving Krishna, there is no problem. Rameswara Swami informed Prabhupada that the last volume of ninth canto was in the printer, and the first volume of 10th canto would follow in 2 weeks. Srila Prabhupada inquired about whether it was more economical to print the Hindi books in India or America, but they discussed. Internationally, all conditional people are suffering, said Srila Prabhupada, but you devotees are above all dangers. Nityananda Maharaj knows that very well. He has no danger sticking to that new Vrindavan program. There is always improvement. They eat first class nutritious food. And what is that place in Pennsylvania? It was like old times, with Srila Prabhupada hearing reports and correcting and inspiring his leaders to do more and more, assuring them that Krishna would help them. Rameswara Swami described for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure for the great volume of Krishna conscious literature being distributed. At the end of this year, we'll have sold at least 65 million books on Krishna. Every year, we are selling at least 50 to 20 million books now. Yes, said Prabhupada. They asked, why are you stressing so much on Krishna? But that is the only message. It will increase more. People will be inquisitive. Srila Prabhupada continued to talk, but with occasional reflections on his present condition. What is the problem? He asked. We are talking about Krishna. So if all of a sudden I collapse, then what is the problem? Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja. Ordinary dying is kalpa with vata pitta, choking. But if in Krishna Kirtana you die, oh, it is so successful. Not the injection and operation, that atmosphere, but in Krishna Kirtan, that is glorious. Not oxygen, gas, dying, and so much trouble. Chant Hare Krishna, yes. And let me die, Krishna, never be disturbed. Chant Hare Krishna. For chanting, you have got so much material. Now read something from this book. Quote, in this Sanskrit phrase, Srila Prabhupada is chanting part of a favorite verse of his from Mukunda Mala Strota by Maharaj Kulashekara. The author is praying to fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna and pass away in that condition rather than dying and the bodily functions are disturbed and the mind may be distracted from Krishna's lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada reached over and opened Srimad Bhagavatam, handed it to Rameshwara, who began reading. One after another, the GBC men arrived. Arthya Rishi brought pomegranates and sweet lemons from Iran, as well as good news of the ISKCON restaurant there. Srila Prabhupada listened with intense interest to Arthya Rishi's report and then spoke for a while about the Middle East and how to best present Krishna consciousness there. Kirtananda Swami had brought milk products from New Vrindavan, and Sonnasi came from Thailand with fruits and flowers. When Adi Keshava Swami came in, Prabhupada beamed. He heard with great pleasure Adi Keshava's report of the impact of the New York court decision on Indians around the world. When Swarup Damodar arrived, he showed Prabhupada the manuscripts for 3 pamphlets, proving scientifically, mathematically, that Krishna consciousness is absolute truth. After each report and greeting, Srila Prabhupada would ask that the Kirtana be continued and he would become silent as the devotees sang softly out after another. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. A very small pair of kartalas, the only instrument, produced a soft, pleasant ringing. The voices of the chanters were subdued, but their minds were firmly fixed in devotion to Srila Prabhupada and the holy name, concerned that Prabhupada could hear the Mahamantra without interruption. Pardon? The devotees who were chanting experienced their own realizations while intimately associating with Srila Prabhupada in this way. They could understand that this was the most important connection with Srila Prabhupada, to come to his presence and chant Hare Krishna and Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya and read to him from Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada wanted to hear the transcendental sound, yet he was simultaneously teaching his disciples. After his departure, they retained a deep impression of the significance of the Hare Krishna mantra and Srimad Bhagavatam, and they would go on giving the mercy to others. He was teaching them how to become pure devotees. He was sharing himself with them by having them preach, chant very simply, and read his books without speculation, so that later, when preaching Krishna consciousness, they would remember. Srila Prabhupada would always be with them, so as they went on chanting simply and preaching without speculation, whether he would depart now or later, he was preparing them. Sometimes during the chanting, Srila Prabhupada would communicate unspoken feelings with his disciples. He might simply glance at one of the devotees, but that devotee would feel a surge of loving emotion and realization. Suddenly, he would understand better how pure and compassionate Srila Prabhupada was. And the devotee might recall how Prabhupada had come and saved him, bringing him to Krishna consciousness. As the GBC men, while chanting and becoming verified, were rededicating themselves, hoping that Krishna would accept them as surrendered souls. They asked Krishna bless them and make them fit for whatever happened. Do not leave me, Prabhupada said at one point. Are you feeling better? Tamal Krishna asked. Yes, I'm feeling little better. Go on administering this medicine. At Srila Prabhupada's request, the devotee stayed with him between 1:30 a.m., read to him from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He would usually be on the roof then, sitting up in bed. A few bare bulbs would light the darkness, and all would be quiet and still except for the sound of the devotee reading. After one such reading, Srila Prabhupada asked Rupanuga about the preaching in Washington, D.C., and Rupanuga replied briefly, and then he and Balavanta began talking about deprogramming. Then Rupanuga had said he had written a prayer to the higher authorities and asked if he could read it to Srila Prabhupada. O superior Vaishnavas, O compassionate acharyas of the holy name, O supreme authorities, masters of our faith, have mercy upon us. We are not able to make any prayers, but this is an emergency. Shastra teaches that because of the disciples' bad behavior, or to allow some personal service, or to exhibit ecstatic symptoms, the spiritual master may display bad health. Although he so kindly says it is simply due to old age and personal neglect of his health, meaning he has worked too hard to save us. But we may not speculate upon the mind of the acharyas. Please hear our petition. We pray for the kindness of our grandfather Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is by nature merciful upon his spiritual grandchildren. We pray for the continued compassion of the six Goswamis, who are already famous in all the three worlds for saving conditioned souls. We pray for the benediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most magnanimous person, Supreme Personality of Godhead. We pray to Radharani, the Queen of Vrindavan, protector of our neophyte bhakti, and we pray to Lord Krishna himself, whom we cannot even approach without the guidance of our Srila Prabhupada. We, the fallen servants of divine grace, beseech all of our masters, please give Srila Prabhupada more time to ensure the strength of his movement, time to finish Srimad Bhagavatam, a little more time for us to spread at the lotus feet of His divine grace, that we may become pure devotees by His mercy. We implore you, these 10 years have passed so quickly, and we got far too short of perfection. You know that actually only 10 milliseconds have passed in eternal time. Therefore, kindly extend this day, lest we fall from the spiritual path. O Vaishnava saints, O Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, our eternal grandfather, O six Goswamis of Vrindavan, O Radharani, Mother of Bhakti, O Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Master of all, O Lord Krishna, the final repose of our love, O Vaishnava Acharyas, kindly have mercy on us. Please don't yet take Srila Prabhupada away. Kindly grant this emergency prayer. Either way, said Srila Prabhupada, I have no objection to stay early. He said there was a Bengali saying that if a dheki, a wheat threshing machine, goes to heaven, what will it do there? It will thresh wheat. Because the thresher is constituted in a particular way, it will thresh wherever it goes. Similarly, the pure devotees, wherever he is in the material world, spiritual world, will serve Krishna. In this way, Srila Prabhupada was indicating that he had no personal anxiety. It also indicated that although everything was dependent on Krishna, the prayers of the devotees might influence Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's disciples, humbly considering themselves neophyte devotees, took it as a sign of Prabhupada's protective mercy that he said that prayers could keep him with them and that he, although an eternal exalted associate of Krishna, liked to be with his tiny disciples. My Guru Maharaj was disgusted when he had said, but I like your company.
కనబడుతుందా మనిషి కనబడి అనుకుంటా ఎట్లా వీడియోలో కలనా ఉన్నాడు ఇక దయ ఏం లేదు మాకు వాస్తవం మరి ఎవరు చేస్తున్నారు ఏం లేదు సూపర్ మాట ఇప్పుడు ఇదంతా ఏ భాగంగా ఏం చేస్తున్నారు నాకు తెలియదు ఏం లేదు మాట దించడం ఏం లేదు ఆల్రెడీ చాలా మయం ఉన్నాను మీ ఆలోచన పైకొచ్చుంటానేమో సరే తర్వాత ఇంకా ఇంకా ఎన్ని రోజులు పడుతుంది
Krishna, continuing from Lilamrta, chapter 52. A sannyas disciple read aloud a prayer he had written, petitioning the Supreme Lord for Prabhupada to live for 100 years. On hearing this, Srila Prabhupada opened his eyes wide and smiled. But again he pointed out that he was not afraid of death. Whatever he was, he said, he was in Vaikuntha. Especially being in Vrindavan and being surrounded by the kirtan of his disciples was Vaikuntha. Tamal Krishna Goswami told Prabhupada that he had offered a prayer in the temple that morning while standing before Krishna and Balaram. Krishna has done so many miracles. So it would not be very amazing if he kept Prabhupada alive. And Balaram, who was supporting all creation, would not be weakened if he gave Srila Prabhupada a little strength. In this way, Tamal Krishna said, we may all pray to Krishna Balaram to save you. We are not very important, but still they may hear. No, Prabhupada said, you are all pure devotees with no other motives. Srila Prabhupada regarded the petitions of his disciples as expressions of sincere affection, not at all improper spiritually. But he pointed out it was ultimately up to Krishna. He had his plans. In any case, Srila Prabhupada said that he would be all right. He told a story of a sage who blessed different persons in different ways. The sage blessed a prince to live a long life. since after death he would be punished for his sensual life. The sage also blessed an ascetic to die at once, so as to be relieved of the suffering of his austerities and receive his pious rewards. But when asked to bless a pure devotee, the sage said that because the devotee had already obtained the lotus feet of Krishna, his condition would be the same whether he lived or died. Prabhupada knew even better than his disciples that there was much he could do if he remained in the world. But he simply wanted to see what Krishna desired. He saw strong evidence, however, that his life was about to end, at least according to the condition of his physical body. And this in itself indicated that Krishna's desire was that he soon leave this world. The GBC men met and decided that aside from Prabhupada's will, which would secure the ISKCON properties, and aside from making all the bank accounts within ISKCON secure, there were also a few questions which they should put before Prabhupada before it was too late. These questions, such as how future disciples would be initiated, would have to be answered. Otherwise, they would become a source of speculation and havoc after Srila Prabhupada's departure. A selected committee from the GBC came before Srila Prabhupada as he sat up in bed in the main room downstairs. Satswarup Das Goswami, who was to be the spokesman, but he felt shy and uneasy. To come directly before Srila Prabhupada and ask about what should be done of after his passing away might seem impertinent. But it was necessary. Srila Prabhupada himself had requested that the GBC come to Vrindavan to take care of exactly this kind of business. Besides, for a disciple to feel foolish and awkward before Srila Prabhupada was normal. And certainly the mission of Srila Prabhupada's disciples continuing his movement was so great that its importance transcended the awkwardness of the movement. Nonetheless, Srila Prabhupada was Srila Prabhupada, and even though apparently invalid, he was as awesome as ever. If he were displeased with the questions, then it would be frightening. Srila Prabhupada said Satsvarup. We were all asked by the rest of the GBC to come to ask some questions. These are the members of the original GBC as you first made it out. Our first question is about the GBC members. We want to know how long should they remain in office. Srila Prabhupada spoke slowly and deeply. They should remain for good. Selected men are chosen, and that they cannot be changed. Rather, if some competent men are found, they should be added. Srila Prabhupada took the opportunity to recommend that Vasudev become a GBC member representing Fiji. Add him, said Prabhupada, but the GBC is not to be changed. Satsarup asked what to do if a GBC member gave up his post, and Prabhupada said that the GBC body should elect another man. Our next question, Satsuru proceeded, concerns initiations in the future, particularly at the time you are no longer with us. We want to know how a first and second initiation would be conducted. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. I shall recommend some of you. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating Acharya. Kamal Krishna injected. Is that called Ritvik Acharya? Yes, Prabhupada said Ritvik. Then what is the relationship of the person who gives the initiation? Asked Satswarup. He is Guru, said Prabhupada, but he does it on your behalf, said Satswarup. Yes, that is formality, because in my presence one should not become Guru. So on my behalf, on my orders, Amara Agya hai Guru. He's actually Guru, but on my orders. So they may also be considered your disciples, said Satswarup, referring to those persons initiated on Prabhupada's behalf by Ritvik Acharya. They are their disciples, said Srila Prabhupada. Now we are speaking of initiations after his passing away. They are the disciples of the one who is initiating. They are my grand disciples. When I order you to become Guru, you become regular Guru. That's all. And they become the disciples of my disciple. The GBC members present were satisfied that Srila Prabhupada's reply to the intricate inquiry was clear and conclusive. Later, he would select some of you, and whomever he selected could become an initiating guru. What he had already described many times through his Bhaktivedanta purports was now being implemented. His disciples would become gurus and accept disciples of their own. Satswarup next asked about the BBT. At present, he said, no translated works are to be published without your seeing and approving them. So the question is there any system for publishing works in the future? Works that you may not see? That we have to examine expertly, Prabhupada replied. He accepted the principle that future works could be translated from Sanskrit. But he cautioned, but among my disciples, I do not think there are many who can translate it properly. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, Kirtanananda, we think that you cannot leave us very soon. I don't want to, said Prabhupada, but I'm obligated. What can I do? If you don't want to, then Krishna wouldn't want, said Kirtanananda. Srila Prabhupada went on to describe the specific qualifications for translating Sanskrit Vaishnava literature. It would take a realized soul, he said. Otherwise, simply by initiating A, B, C, D, it will not help. Imitating A, B, C, D, it will not help. The purports are liked by people because it is presented as practical experience. It cannot be done unless one is realized. It is not a matter of scholarship, added Bhagavan. Lord Chaitanya said Srila Prabhupada, Amar Agya Guru, one who can understand the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can become Guru. Or one who understands his Guru's order in Parampara, he can become Guru. And thereafter, I select some of you. By repeating himself, Prabhupada emphasized his point. He would select would select who would be Guru. And also he repeated his other point. So there is no question of changing GBC. Rather, one who is competent, he can be selected to add by the vote of GBC. Of course, if one falls away, Tamal Krishna proposed. Just like in the past, GBC men have fallen down. They should be replaced, said Prabhupada. They must be all ideal acharya. In the beginning, we have done for working. But now we should be very cautious. Anyone who is deviating, he can be replaced. There are few questions answered. The GP man sat silently before Srila Prabhupada, awaiting any further instructions, but anxious not to tire him with their presence. So Srila Prabhupada said Tamal Krishna, there is a chanting party ready to do some kirtan. Maybe they can come in. Srila Prabhupada had already given the outline for his will to Tamal Krishna Goswami. Srila Prabhupada had already given the outline for his will to Tamal Krishna Goswami. The GBC would be the ultimate governing authority in ISKCON. Three trustees would be assigned to each ISKCON property. The money in Prabhupada's name in various banks would become ISKCON's property. A small pension would be allowed for his ex-wife and sons. Even when the GBC was gathered to make a thorough draft and make the will legal, Srila Prabhupada received a visit that made him anxious over his ISKCON society. One of the Goswamis of the Vrindavan temple visited and praised Srila Prabhupada. But in the course of the conversation, the man asked, after you, who will take care of the property? As soon as the gentleman left, Srila Prabhupada called for Gopal Krishna, Tamal Krishna, and Bhavananda also gathered. In India, you can understand there is an undercurrent, said Srila Prabhupada. Undercurrent, Tamal Krishna repeated. An undercurrent is going on, said Prabhupada, that after my demise, it may be taken away from your hands. You understand that from this discussion, said Tamal Krishna. I understood it long ago, said Prabhupada. How are you going to guard yourself? Once again, it was Prabhupada who had to make them aware of the worldly wisdom. You ordered that we form a trust property with lifelong trustees. Said Tamal Krishna, actually, this property is the envy of all India. They are the best properties. They envy our prestige, said Srila Prabhupada. Our position, everything. where we are first class. For Srila Prabhupada, the will meant protection for his ISKCON. As Srila Prabhupada had explained, a devotee had not a tinge of self-interest. Everything is for Krishna. But in his purity, he must not be naive. ISKCON was a large growing organization of properties and monies intended 100% for use in devotional service of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada called on the GBC to be vigilant. While his GBC man discussed privately the details of the will, Srila Prabhupada lay in bed, anxiously concerned about ISKCON's properties. He didn't attempt to eat, and Upendra had to massage his chest. Later that day, while surrounded by a sweetly chanting group of devotees, he again brought up the thread. There is a big plot going on, he began. They are very troublesome. Kamal Krishna, who knew that Prabhupada was talking about, said that should be done immediately. Make a trust property. This shall be done, said Prabhupada. Very nice. What Prabhupada was asking was not unusual, but it had to be done soundly, expertly. And that month, Srila Prabhupada would have to do it himself. He wanted no more management, but could his disciples assure him to the point of greatest anxiety that the institution's properties and monies would be protected? Tamal Krishna spoke up to assure Prabhupada of the GBC's competence to deal with this. This shall be done for all the properties, he said, but especially here in India. Srila Prabhupada said Bhavananda Goswami that trustees should be designated. The trustees without designation. Prabhupada replied, what is a trustee? I have already made one of the draft of trustees for the book trust. In that style, make it. Yes, said Tamal Krishna. So we'll make up a draft on that style. And after the draft is approved, you can tell us which trustees you want. Oh, you can select among yourselves, said Prabhupada. Why are you taxing me? When Tamal Krishna mentioned that the three places in India, Bombay, Vrindavan, Mayapur, were the most important, Srila Prabhupada replied, everywhere. He then added, among yourself there is no strong man. That is the difficulty. That is a fact, admitted Tamal Krishna. All my child, said Prabhupada, a statement of love, but not of relief. And it requires a very strong man. This is lacking. In every minor detail, I have to open my mouth. Anyway, whatever you have got, sit down and select trustees. And that format is there. Make it a trust. Among you, Rameshwar is a little intelligent. Anyway, do your best. Otherwise, there is a very, very big undercurrent there waiting for your program. Tamal Krishna assured Prabhupada that they would immediately have a meeting. We'll discuss these points. Oh, discussion. I've already given you, said Prabhupada. Do it. What I meant, said Tamal Krishna, is we will execute it. All right, Srila Prabhupada. Don't delay. At times like this, it became especially clear that the day was approaching when Prabhupada's children would have to grow up and lead and manage, protect, and expand his society on their own. These might well be their last chances to learn directly from him and to be close to him for chanting the holy name and dictating themselves utterly to carrying out his desire for ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada seemed to be doubting whether his children would rise to the occasion, and that expressed doubt impelled them not to discouragement but to determined action to prove themselves loyal and competent. That evening, a GBC committee reported back to Srila Prabhupada that they will be drafted with provisions for the protection of all ISKCON properties through specific trustees. Rameshwar read the bill before Prabhupada, who made only a few comments. This will make it impossible for anyone to cheat, said Rameshwar. Yes, Prabhupada agreed, as far as I can see. Even regarding matters of the utmost concern to him, he sometimes remained quiet. He had directed his GBC men as far as possible. Now, he mostly wanted the medicine of the holy name. But what they had done was all right, and he was satisfied. As the committee was leaving his room, he softly exclaimed, Jai, future directors of ISKCON. And later, when alone in his servants, he shed tears and said he could now leave peacefully. A few days later, the final version of the Declaration of Will was notarized in the presence of a lawyer. The document began. The Governing Body Commission, GBC, would be the ultimate managing authority of the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and went on to cover all the points of concern regarding GBC properties and management. Most of the 23-member GBC body was still gathered in Vrindavan, but business was completed. Srila Prabhupada's health appeared to be slightly improved, a blessing of the devotees, and Prabhupada attributed to the constant chanting. Srila Prabhupada even ate and digested some fried food. He also spoke of attempt to resume his early morning translating work. The GBC men, each of whom had pressing leadership and administrative duties within their respective zones, began to feel the need to return to their posts. Aside from their chanting shifts in Srila Prabhupada's room, usually 3 hours twice a day, they had no other service in Vrindavan. The weather was also unbearably hot, up to 120 degrees. When some of them expressed their plans to return to their area of work, Prabhupada gave permission. They had been together for a week, and now, one by one, they began to disperse. Within another week, most of them had left Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada and his small staff remained, and the constant chanting continued, performed by the devotees of the Krishna Balaram temple. As June came in Vrindavan, the weather remained very hot. The sky, which had been a clear sky, turned hazy as the first moisture arrived. Between noon and 4 p.m., the ground was too hot for barefoot, and the residents of Vrindavan would stay home, confining most of their activity to either the morning or the late afternoon and evening. Even eating was excluded from the midday since the heat killed the appetite. And Yamuna was shallow and hot, giving little relief. The cows were gaunt from the lack of grass and feed, and occasional hot, searing winds raised dust clouds. Flies and mosquitoes died in the air. One of the few pleasant features of the summer was the fragrance of the bale flowers that came along the walls around Prabhupada's gardens, somehow thriving in the dry heat. In the first days of June, Srila Prabhupada experienced some hope of recovery. He asked to resume his morning rides, and when being brought down in the car, he said, "Soon I'll get down and walk myself." His old friend from Allahabad, Mr. Ghosh, came and diagnosed his disease as anxiety for the devotees and the Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Prabhupada agreed, but he didn't follow the doctor's orders since they induced having his blood pressure checked regularly and taking various medicines and special treatments. But by receiving massages from his servants, he felt he was improving. At this rate, he said he would be all right after a month and a half, but he stressed, "I'm not leaving Vrindavan until I'm well." One morning, Srila Prabhupada asked to go and see the deities, and his men promptly moved him in his rocking chair before Krishna Balaram. Standing in his chair beneath the tamal tree, Prabhupada looked at the Transcendental Brothers, while many tears glided down his cheeks. "They are dressed very nicely," he said. While he basked in the presence of Krishna and Balaram, he enjoyed the soothing shade of the tamal tree. "The contractor wanted this tree cut," he said, "but I will not allow. There are not many tamal trees left. These worldly men do not know." Srila Prabhupada started coming down regularly each morning to see the deities, an event that gradually grew to become a daily temple function involving ISKCON devotees and guests alike. Prabhupada would sit in his rocking chair under the tamal tree, and a devotee would lead kirtan, while Prabhupada and all other devotees chanted responsively. For Prabhupada's disciples, chanting with him in the courtyard of his temple in Ramanreti Vrindavan was the essence of the spiritual world. Although Prabhupada's body was apparently sick, he was still as alert as ever. And every morning he would notice who was there and who was not. The devotees grew to love this special opportunity to associate with Prabhupada as he sat in his rocking chair, gazing at Krishna and Balaram. Vrindavan residents and pilgrims would also gather around Prabhupada, often offering money, which they would place at Prabhupada's feet. While the energetic young Gurukul boys danced before Prabhupada, and the pilgrims continuously flowed in and out, offering obeisances and rupees at his feet. And one of his secretaries fanned him with a large chamara wish. Srila Prabhupada sat gravely yet simply, with his attention fixed on Krishna and Balaram. Sometimes he would go sit in the private garden adjacent to his main room. A devotee had built a plaster foundation here in the shape of a large pink lotus. And while Prabhupada sat in the little alcove surrounded by flowering vines, the splashing of the fountain pleased and soothed. An occasional monkey would come over the wall into the garden looking for something to steal, and Prabhupada would have it chased away. Otherwise, he sat silently, conversing only occasionally with one or two disciples. One day in the garden, Srila Prabhupada was recalling the small but civilized life he had known as a child. He mentioned the various ceremonies his mother had observed during pregnancy to allay the dangers connected with childbirth. Though his voice was soft and weak, he was still inclined to speak. So much care was taken of the children, he said. Now these rascals are killing children. Most uncivilized life. Two-legged animals, even in these days, in India, in the interior villages, their life can be peaceful. They have enough grains, enough milk to live peacefully and chant Hare Krishna. And they're going there to give this sterilization. Srila Prabhupada was referring to Indira Gandhi's policy of compulsory sterilization. One of the devotees present had just come from West Bengal, where he had been traveling in a boat down the Ganges, preaching and distributing prasadam in the villages. Srila Prabhupada began describing to him how in the villages they make a simple bread ball from attar, atta, whole wheat flour, and bake it beside an open fire. The same fire, it is called khandi fire, using cow dung chips. Srila Prabhupada said they put one top pot upon this fire and use it for dal. Then after some time you'll see if it is boiled very nice, then this ball can be cooked in ghee. This it will be first class. While the fountain splashed gently and the pigeons and green parrots fluttered and chattered, Srila Prabhupada continued to talk freely. He recalled his horoscope at birth. After 70 years, this man will go outside India and establish so many temples. He said he hadn't understood at first that he would actually have to go. But when he spoke finally, but when he had finally gone to the US, he had had no intention of ever returning, except for the stroke he suffered in the United States in 1967. He said he would not have come back. That means Krishna desired, he said. Otherwise, I had no plan to come back. Therefore, I took this permanent residency. Do you regret having come back to India? Asked Tamal Krishna Goswami. No, said Prabhupada. My plan was like that to stay, but Krishna's plan was different. When I came back in 1970, I was speaking to Dwarkadish, the Krishna deity in ISKCON Los Angeles temple. I came here to preach. I do not know why you are dragging me back. Then that was when I was leaving Los Angeles. I was not happy. But he had his plan. Pretty nice plan, commented Tamal Krishna. Srila Prabhupada continued. Krishna said, come, I'll give you a better place in Vrindavan. You were retired in Vrindavan and I asked you to leave. Now you have to come back, but I'll give you a better place. So he has given me a temple 100 times better than any other place. Is it not so? An article entitled Srila Prabhupada Seriously Ill appeared on the front page of the Times of India. On hearing the article, Srila Prabhupada commented, unless they think Bhaktivedanta Swami is important, they wouldn't print this. Giriraj wrote to Srila Prabhupada that many sympathizers had phoned the Bombay temple asking for more information. One of the devotees had issued a statement which the Times of India carried a few days later on the page 3 under the headline, Srila Prabhupada now better. So was Prabhupada seriously ill or better? I may live or die, he said. In either case, I am with Krishna. But he confided, I asked Krishna to give me enthusiasm to continue up to death. A soldier should die fighting on the battlefield. At Srila Prabhupada's request, Tamal Krishna was replying to all the correspondence and signing his own name as secretary. As he wrote in one letter, under the circumstances, it is not possible for me to read letters to Srila Prabhupada. I simply inform him of any good news which comes. So I've told him of your successful town hall meeting as well as your other preaching activities. These letters were almost as valuable as Srila Prabhupada's since they were often filled with direct quotes from Srila Prabhupada. One evening, Srila Prabhupada called for all the available sannyasis. He said he was feeling tired, but like a happy father to have his children with him, he said, you should all come to be with me like this, and I feel better. One day, while sitting with Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna began to describe the pastimes of Krishna as depicted in the painting hanging to the right of Srila Prabhupada's prasadam table. The table showed Krishna and his cowherd friends eating lunch. Srila Prabhupada looked at the painting and then, closing his eyes, thinking of the Leela, said, "This is the highest perfection of life. I have concluded that whatever is done without Krishna is simply a waste of time. What will they think of this?" Prabhupada's moods moved and varied within the realm of transcendental emotions and attitudes. Some of the disciples attending him, he said, "I'm thinking I am a worthless person, taking so much service. There is no way I can repay you. I'm poor in every respect, financially and spiritually." Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna protested, "Our only desire is to serve you." "I know," Prabhupada replied, "and that is the only reason I'm living. All over the world, things are going on by your sincere service." But occasionally, Srila Prabhupada would still reprimand an errant disciple. While in dressing Prabhupada, Upendra gave a lungi that was too small. Prabhupada called him a fool and a rascal. And Tamal Krishna did not attend Prabhupada one morning due to having a cold. Prabhupada was critical. I was never neglectful about my duty in any field of activity. He said, "Even business, Dr. Bose loved me very much. He was giving me checks to sign for 40,000 rupees. I was never lazy or neglectful in duty. I would do it honestly and try to make it perfect. Only I was neglectful when I was involved with my young wife. Then I neglected my studies. That was due to circumstances. And then later I neglected my wife. My father said I was fortunate not to like my family. Krishna saved me through so many circumstances. This material life is checkered." Early one morning, Srila Prabhupada woke suddenly. "I had a dream," he said to the devotees attending him. There was a big assembly of drunkards and chanters. The drunkards were madmen. Some of the drunkards were becoming chanters. They cannot stop fighting. The drunkards were so crazy. "Were you there also?" asked Krishna. "Yes, I was standing there also." "Were some of the chanters becoming drunkards?" "Chanters cannot fall down," said Srila Prabhupada. "Their names are listed back to home, back to Godhead. They are in Krishna's family." After the GBC assembly in Vrindavan, Swarup Damodar had traveled to Manipur and Calcutta and was now returning to Vrindavan to see Srila Prabhupada. As soon as Prabhupada heard Swarup Damodar had arrived, he asked to see him. As usual, Srila Prabhupada treated him very specially and gave him very much time and attention. From Prabhupada's first meeting with Swarup Damodar, when Swarup Damodar had been Thaudam Singh, a PhD candidate in organic chemistry at UCLA, Prabhupada had taken great care to cultivate their relationship. Thaudam had grown up in Manipur, but after graduating high school, had come to America to continue his education at the University of California. He had been attracted by devotees chanting Hare Krishna on the streets of Los Angeles and had visited the temple. When he met Srila Prabhupada, he became convinced that he had met a genuine spiritual leader. At first, Thaudam had maintained his stance as a representative of the world of empiric scientific knowledge, and Srila Prabhupada had invited him for morning walks on Venice Beach. Day after day, Srila Prabhupada drew Thaudam into arguments about the origin of life. When Srila Prabhupada was ready to argue, he would glance around and ask, "Where is the scientist?" And on catching sight of Thaudam, he would ask, "So, what do they say?" Thaudam would then argue that life had arisen by chance through chemical evolution. And Srila Prabhupada would smash the argument with a stunning display of logic and common sense. Thaudam, by regularly associating with Prabhupada and by reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is, had become more inclined to Krishna consciousness than to material science, and eventually he had become Sri Prabhupada's initiated disciple, Swarup Damodar Das. With Srila Prabhupada's encouragement, Swarup Damodar had soon received his PhD and pledged to serve Srila Prabhupada through scientific lectures and writings against the theory of modern atheistic science. Srila Prabhupada was well aware of the powerful sway science held over people everywhere, and he had to go out to combat their godless propaganda. He knew that Bhagavad Gita was the highest science, and he saw how outrageously prejudiced many modern scientific assumptions were. For all their high technical jargon and faith in the scientific method, the scientists were actually ignorant of the origin and purpose of life. Swarup Damodar and a few other devotees holding a graduate degree had formed the Bhaktivedanta Institute and were working with academic circles to establish the scientific basis of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada had been specially pleased when at the large meeting of scientists, Swarup Damodar had challenged a Nobel Prize winning scientist who held that life was a phenomena that occurred at a certain level of chemical complexity. If I give you the required chemicals, Swarup Damodar had asked him, will you be able to produce life? And the embarrassed scientist had replied, I don't know. Repeatedly, Prabhupada had referred to that incident in his conversations and lectures. Srila Prabhupada often praised the work of Swarup Damodar and the Bhaktivedanta Institute and assured them that the BBT would provide funds for their printing, research, and building projects. He had given them the arguments and they were developing them with scientific language. Now, Swarup Damodar had come for more association with Srila Prabhupada, and after offering obeisances, he presented Srila Prabhupada with several pink lotus flowers. Srila Prabhupada took one in his hand and opened the petals, and the other gave to his secretary for presenting to the deities. Swarup Damodar had also brought several ripe pineapples, and Prabhupada immediately asked for a glass of fresh pineapple juice. Swarup Damodar was arranging for a conference of scientists in Vrindavan to discuss the origin of life. He had been meeting with various scientists and professors, many of whom had shown interest in Swarup Damodar's approach. And in participating in the conference, Swarup Damodar read Prabhupada the prospectus he had prepared announcing the upcoming conference. Prabhupada listened silently and at the end said, all glories to Swarup Damodar. Later in the afternoon, they spoke again. It seemed that Prabhupada was never too tired or too displeased to speak with Swarup Damodar about defeating material science. Swarup Damodar was getting hope from his conversations with scientists. He told Prabhupada, I think they're interested in the program we are making. Otherwise, they wouldn't take time to discuss. Some of them feel our approach is unique. There is no other such proposal, said Prabhupada. They have taken God as something mystical, especially this rascal, Darwin's theory. They have become like animals. They are seeing everyone as animals. This rascal has convinced them your grandfather was a monkey. How could they become the son of a monkey? But this is going on. A grand rascal, this Darwin, and his theory is taken as the greatest principle of anthropology in the whole world. So scientists, by combined meetings, should speak out against this Darwin's theory. So on the day of Swarup Damodar's arrival in Vrindavan, the first rains also arrived, indicating the end of summer and the start of the monsoons. Heavy rains beat down while Prabhupada and Swarup Damodar continued talking. Prabhupada said that the Vedic evolutionary theory had been presented in the Padma Purana thousands of years before Darwin. If we can get some big scientists on our side, said Swarup Damodar, at least a few, that will be enough. That I'm asking, said Prabhupada. Kamal Krishna figured that Srila Prabhupada would be tired after 2 hours of talking, so he interrupted. Would you like a kirtan party now? Said Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada corrected him. This is kirtan now going on. People have to understand what is kirtan. Any topics on Krishna, this is kirtan. Sukadeva Goswami became perfect by kirtan. But what kind of kirtan did he do? He was speaking the Bhagavatam. Answered Tamal Krishna. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. You're simply thinking drums and kartals is kirtan, but anything we do here is kirtan. There is no material connection here. We are not talking how to increase our business and enjoy women and mind. That is not our aim. Ke uttama shloka gunana vadyat. We are trying to establish Krishna. That is kirtan. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu. Do you know this? Taking this remark as excuse, Swarup Damodar went on to speak about scientists he had met who were interested in the proposal, Origin of Life Conference. I'm thinking of the title of our conference, he said, as the Bhaktivedanta Vijnana Conference in Vrindavan. No, said Srila Prabhupada. They will take it otherwise, thinking that Bhaktivedanta is not a jnani. They will take it lightly because Bhaktivedanta Swami is not a scientist. One of the devotees said that Bhaktivedanta actually indicates the highest science, and Srila Prabhupada agreed. But to understand bhakti, he said, was very difficult for the ordinary man. Why not? Life comes from life, said Prabhupada, and Swarup Damodar immediately agreed. Make something extraordinary, said Prabhupada. We are not just some magicians like other yogis. There is money, intelligence, and I can give you inspiration. Srila Prabhupada's comments often implied that his bodily conception was of no importance either to himself or to his followers. And this was, in fact, an important instruction regarding the Guru's body, Vapu, and his instructions, Vani. The spiritual master would not always be physically present, but in the form of his instruction, he was eternally available for the sincere disciple. And the association was the real and was and personal as physical association. In fact, the ecstasy of service and separation was greater. The Shastras state that the body of the pure devotee is spiritual, but that his physical presence in the material world is temporary. As Srila Prabhupada had said of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his passing away meant he had gone to serve Krishna in another place. Srila Prabhupada had instructed his disciples regarding the body of the spiritual master in his book, The Nectar of Instruction. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a disease or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the water of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges water does not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. The devotees working closely with Srila Prabhupada did not think he was deteriorating no matter how he appeared. He was just giving them another opportunity to serve him. If he wanted to eat or didn't want to eat, if he was pleased or displeased, if he appeared well or ill, they would respond accordingly out of duty and love. This mood was becoming increasingly prominent as Srila Prabhupada more and more depended on his disciples to help him carry out all his functions. He had said he was remaining in the world only to satisfy his disciples' sincere desires to serve him. Yet he continued to emphasize that their service to his physical form was not as important as their following his instructions. When one of Prabhupada's sannyasis was taking leave of him, he smiled pleasingly and said, I must stay or go, but in my books I live forever. When he heard that the 40,000 hardbound books had been distributed in 1 week, he said, if book distribution increases, I'll never die. I'll be living for centuries. Kamal Krishna remarked that the book distribution reports were one kind of news that didn't give Prabhupada a headache. And Prabhupada smiled broadly. No, he said, it is my life. But one day, while sitting in the garden with Tamal Krishna, Sarup Damodar, and others, Srila Prabhupada became very disturbed when he detected a mistake in one of his already printed books. Tamal Krishna was reading aloud a verse from the fifth canto, which began, Munaya Sadhu Prishtoham. Srila Prabhupada had him read the synonyms. Tamal Krishna read, Munaya of the sages, Sadhu. This is relevant. Prishta. Question. Munaya asked Prabhupada. Thus, he covered a thoughtless mistake. He uncovered a thoughtless mistake made by the Sanskrit editors. This is the address. This is an address. Here, the verse translated properly reads, O sages. But someone has changed the word by word translation to of the sages. Srila Prabhupada became very angry and denounced the rascal Sanskrit scholars. A little learning, he said, is dangerous. Immediately, they think they have become a big scholar, thinking, I shall arrange. And then they will write all nonsense. He continued speaking about the mistake for half an hour. He was disturbed. He ordered Tamal Krishna to write at once to the BBT and stop these speculations by his disciples changing his books in the name of editing. The devotees were startled to see Prabhupada so angry. He was supposed to be peaceful, relishing a Srimad Bhagavatam reading here in the garden. Such a change was very serious, he said, because it changed the meaning. Even if the authorized acharyas would make a mistake, he said, it would not be changed. This is Ashra Pragyo. In this way, the acharyas are honored. By Srila Prabhupada's strong reaction to his one pointed printed mistake, he was again stressing the importance of his books. Whatever I have wanted to say, he explained, I have said in my books. If I live, I will say something little more. If you want to know me, read my books. Srila Prabhupada was especially pleased by the letters he received from Ghanasham, who was distributing books in the communist countries of Eastern Europe. Ghanasham was the member of the BBT Library Party, which was systematically traveling from country to country all over the world, placing full sets of Sri Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in university libraries. In daring forays into the communist Europe, Ghanasham was meeting with success. On hearing his report, Prabhupada's demeanor transformed. My books are the real communism, he declared with enthusiasm. I'm writing for the whole human society. My philosophy is to unite human society on the basis of Krishna consciousness. And that is actually happening. Why is the black man working for me and the white man also? How much potency this boy has. Practically, he's preaching in the jungle. The people do not know the language, and still they're giving him standing orders. Prabhupada had said that the only real medicine for him was Kirtan. And Kirtan, he had explained, including preaching around the world. And for Prabhupada, who was taking so little food, the chanting of the holy name and the Kirtan of preaching reports from his disciples seemed to be only his medicine, but his sustenance as well. On the evening of the day, Prabhupada received Ghanshyam's letters. He learned that Gopal Krishna had arrived with copies of several newly printed Hindi books. Prabhupada had been laying in bed, but on receiving the good news, he raised his eyebrows and said, bring them immediately. Gopal Krishna entered with the books and Prabhupada immediately sat up in ecstasy. Years ago, Srila Prabhupada had begun a large Gurukul at Krishna Conscious Primary School in Dallas, Texas. But when the Texas state government had begun imposing too many restrictions, Prabhupada advised in 1976 that the boys' Gurukul be moved to Vrindavan, India. The school should be moved to our new Gurukul project in Vrindavan. The facility will be built just to suit the needs of the brahmachari to develop spiritually. To live in Vrindavan is the highest perfection, and to grow up in Vrindavan is the greatest fortune. Even to live in Mathura Mandal for a fortnight guarantees one liberation. In Vrindavan, no one would place restrictions on the school, and it will be encouraged by the government. Thousands will send their children to be trained as human beings and devotees. The atmosphere in Vrindavan is beyond compare, and the Krishna Balaram Mandir is the finest in the world. By June 1977, the Gurukul building in Vrindavan was near completion, and the devotees managing the Gurukul were contemplating opening the building in the near future. They were discussing how the rooms should be used, including which rooms would be for staff offices and residences. Although Srila Prabhupada had been consulted on these details, he seemed to know what was going on. And one morning, he told his secretary he would like to see the new building from top to bottom. After taking darshan of Krishna and Balaram, he was carried in his chair for a tour of the new building. Pleased with the construction, he remarked, "By Krishna's grace, everything has been done very nicely." The second floor was a continuous wide veranda with many connecting rooms. The persons in charge, explained Tamal Krishna, have one room for residence and one for the office. Very comfortable, Prabhupada remarked. He heard and observed everything, occasionally making suggestions. There should be a flower garden and a fountain in the central courtyard. I think there is no other building equal to this in Vrindavan, he said. As they came to the first floor, Akashananda Maharaj, one of the temple managers, pointed out to Prabhupada, "I want to keep my office here." "That's nice," said Prabhupada. "But because we have got a big enough place now, you shouldn't think I shall keep one leg in my place, one leg in another place, and the whole thing is mismanaged. Don't do that. Don't misuse even 1 inch. You were saying you want 500 students," said one of the Gurukul teachers. "So we should keep as much space as possible for students on the floors." "Yes, yes," said Prabhupada. This is the point he wanted to stress. But then another devotee remarked, "We are going to have administrative offices mixing here, both for the temple and the Gurukul." "No," said Prabhupada. You have to invite children here. Otherwise, what is the use of building such a big building? Not that we have 3 dozen managers and 4 students. Although Prabhupada's soft voice was sometimes lost amid the noise of construction, and although his comments were made intermittently while being carried from one place to another, his message was strong and clear. "Now we have a big facility," he said, "so bring students. That is the first principle. We have to get ISKCON students first," said one of the teachers. "ISKCON or FISCON," said Prabhupada, "bring students." Prabhupada's wordplay made the devotees laugh, but he was serious. "It is a Rakshasa civilization," said Prabhupada. And he began mimicking the cry of the typical vendor, "Do rupaya, do rupaya." And no knowledge. Krishna says, "Tata dehantara prapti." But all they can understand is 2 rupees, 4 rupees. Where will they go in the next life? They do not understand. They do not understand eternal life, only how to enjoy this life. They do not understand one line of the Gita, yet they say, "I read Gita. This darkness is going on, and people are kept in the darkness in the name of so called university education. So our Gurukul will be successful. It may take time." Man-eating demon. After touring the Gurukul facility, Prabhupada had the devotees place his chair down once more before returning to his own rooms. With one of the resident devotees of the Krishna Balaram Mandir, including Gurukul students gathered around him, Prabhupada made his emphatic point. "You are thinking of management," he said. "This manager and that manager, and what rooms to utilize. But my question is, who will you manage? Bring that person." In Bengali, there is a superstition that you should not lie with your head turned toward northern side. So one man said, "But I have no head. For me, there is no question of keeping it to the northern or southern side." So your contemplation about management is like that. First of all, who will you manage? Simply considering office manager and this and that is not good. First thing is bring students. Then it will be successful. That afternoon, Srila Prabhupada said he would speak to the Gurukul staff. They gathered in his room. That afternoon, Srila Prabhupada said he would speak to the Gurukul staff. They gathered in his room and he instructed them as only he could. He who was empowered to lead the world organization of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Our next business, he began, is to approach the well-to-do businessmen and tell them children of your family are expected to be educated with good behavior, good character, and devotion. Chanakya Pandit says, what is the use of begetting children like cats and dogs? They must be learned and follow the bhakti marg. We'll teach your sons these things, canvas like that. In the present society, he said, even the prime minister's son may be a debauchee. The demon Hiranyakashipu didn't want his son Prahlad to be a devotee, but to be like himself, a cheater, a diplomat. Today's society was was comprised of little Hiranyakashipus, but our idea is to create Prahlads. Srila Prabhupada continued, at least 250 students can be accommodated nicely. Throughout India and the whole world, you cannot bring 250 students. What kind of managers are you? I say bring 500. Canvas like that. I fall down at your lotus feet. I flatter you 100 times. Kindly hear me. In this way, canvas, you have to bring students, not just rooms for management. Prabhupada said if the Gurukul was successful and if ISKCON got more standing in the future, the government could take guidance from ISKCON not to allow people to cheat, claiming to be a Brahmana or Kshatriya without training. These things are now a dream, Prabhupada admitted, but it should be done. I'm thinking of so many things, but my life is ending. So keep these ideas, so especially because you're young men. July brought the rainy season to Vrindavan. Clouds were building from the beginning of the month, and by mid-July it would be raining daily. The perfumed odor of the kadamba flowers was heavy in the air, and after a rain, the neem blossoms were given off like onion-like aroma. The peacocks, with their full feathered tails, became ecstatic, dancing, cooing, and calling. Sometimes a sudden rainstorm would come, even while Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his bed or at his dictating desk in an unsheltered part of the veranda, and his two servants would reach out to move him inside as quickly. To read from sometimes a sudden rainstorm.
Sometimes a sudden rainstorm would come even while Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his bed or at his dictating desk in an unsheltered part of veranda, and his servants would rush out to move him inside as quickly as possible. Sometimes, when rain prevented his using the garden, he would recline instead on a little porch overlooking the garden. But at least the 120-degree heat was broken, and the days became more bearable. Prabhupada quietly rested and continued his day's routine, waiting to see what Krishna desired. He would often wake about 6 a.m. and open his eyes to see Tamal Krishna at his bedside. He would then extend his hands, indicating that he wanted to sit up in bed. Tamal Krishna, or another servant, would then lightly stroke Srila Prabhupada's back while Srila Prabhupada spoke his mind. Very few devotees were visiting Vrindavana, and guests were rarely allowed to see Prabhupada. His health was not improving, nor did it seem to be at a crisis point as it had been in May. But because he was hardly eating anything, he was not building his strength. His main treatment consisted of hearing Kirtana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. One of the topics which Srila Prabhupada dealt with during these days was the conception of a model universe for a Vedic planetarium. His disciple, Ambarisha, great grandson of Henry Ford, had pledged to donate for constructing a gorgeous museum planetarium in a major city such as Detroit or Washington, D.C. Srila Prabhupada wanted to present the structure of the universe as it is presented in the fifth canto. But so far, no one had been able to show how it could be done. The devotees who tried were often baffled in an attempt to reconcile the Srimad Bhagavatam's description with the conceptions of modern astronomy. In Bombay, they had brought a so called Vedic astronomer before Prabhupada, but he had been unable to make even a simple diagram. Modern scientists give no credence to the Bhagavatam's account describing the earth as Jambudvipa, an island in the middle of concentric oceans and islands. Nor do the scientists find mountains as tall as those described in the Vedic literature. Srila Prabhupada cautioned the devotees, however, not to be guided by their own Western prejudices, but to try and understand the universe as described in the Bhagavatam. And that was extremely difficult, Srila Prabhupada admitted. When I wrote this, I thought it would not be possible for me unless somebody else helped me. How did you write it? Tamal Krishna asked. And Srila Prabhupada replied, Krishna helped me. I don't know. He laughed. That somebody, Krishna, helped. Inevitably, the devotees asked, but how will we explain it to the scientist? We do not require to satisfy the scientist, Srila Prabhupada replied. We have to describe according to Shastra. If they can understand it, then they will understand it. Otherwise, it is not our business to satisfy the so called scientist. We are dealing with the real description. Tamal Krishna suggested that the planetarium would spell the downfall of Western civilization. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said Prabhupada. I want to expose that they are cheating. Their only interest is to make money, and for this they cheat. If you can make this planetarium, it will be a grand success, triumphant. In early July, some of the devotees in Vrindavana were working on sketches of the universe according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. They were puzzled, however, about how to account for satellite photos of the earth, which seem to contradict Srimad Bhagavatam's description. Srila Prabhupada's reply was that the scientists were bound up by their own conditioning and could not go beyond a certain point. When Tamal Krishna reiterated that Srimad Bhagavatam's explanations still did not agree with modern travel around the earth, Prabhupada insisted that it did. You are prejudiced, he said. You are conditioned with preconceptions of how everything is. It is just like a bull grinding, going around in a circle. He is tied up and simply going around. So everyone is tied up. They cannot go beyond a point and they cannot move any way they like, just like the bull. They have cheated about going to the moon. So, how can we believe them? They want to explain the whole universe. But how can we believe them? Once someone is shown to be a cheater, he will always cheat. A gentleman will say, I don't know, but they are not gentlemen. They are lower class. How can we believe them? They said the world was flat. Then Galileo said it was round. And for this, he was almost angry. They did not know, and he did not know. But our knowledge doesn't change because it is perfect. As soon as there is a change, it is not perfect. A few days later, the committee of devotees returned to Prabhupada and said that the question was still unanswered regarding how the Bhagavatam's description of Jambudvipa would accommodate the fact of traveling west from Los Angeles and reaching India. In reply, Srila Prabhupada stressed that they not concern themselves now with such a minor issue, and he referred to the Pacific Ocean as a drop of water. The descriptions in the Bhagavatam could not be adjusted within the limits of mundane knowledge. Prabhupada gave the example of how, after returning from Vaikuntha, Narada Muni had told a simple cobbler that Lord Narayana was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle. Oh, Narayana is so great, the cobbler had said. But an educated Brahmana had said, it is simply stories. Narada had then asked the cobbler, how can you believe that Narayana was passing an elephant through the eye of a needle? Why not? The cobbler said, I am sitting under a banyan tree. There are so many fruits, and each fruit contains so many seeds, which will each grow into a big banyan tree. Srila Prabhupada said that with experimental logic, one cannot understand the inconceivable. Everything is inconceivable, he said, and these rascals want to bring it as conceivable. Don't be puffed up by your so called education, it has no value. One day, while Srila Prabhupada was sitting in the garden, hearing some news from his secretary, several monkeys appeared on top of the high wall and looked down at the devotees. Srila Prabhupada had often asked the devotees to chase them, and once he had even asked that a monkey doll be hanged by the neck from the tree to frighten the others. But still, the monkeys came. Sometimes the sight of a monkey prompted Srila Prabhupada to remark about Darwin. One time, he talked about how Krishna dealt with monkeys as friends, giving them butter and playing with them in the forest. As he talked, small chipmunks would run along the top of the wall, and occasionally a pair of green parrots would swoop into the yard, chirping loudly and flittering within the branches of a bush and then flying upwards into the sky above the garden. Suddenly, a large peacock alighted nearby and spread his gorgeous purple, blue, and green feathers as if posing for the pleasure of the devotees, while a brahmachari continued steadily fanning him. Srila Prabhupada sat silently. Tamal Krishna, however, had some business which he thought would not be too demanding for Srila Prabhupada. Sitting at his spiritual master's feet, he broached an important topic. Srila Prabhupada, he began. We are receiving a number of letters now from people who want to get initiated. So, up until now, since you are becoming ill, we ask them to wait. Tamal Krishna suggested that since the Guru has to take on the karma of his disciples, and since Srila Prabhupada's health was already weak, he should wait before accepting more disciples. Srila Prabhupada said nothing, and the Vrindavana piece was punctuated by the splashing of the fountain. Then he began to speak. He named three of his disciples and said, so these three can do. Tamal Krishna asked if devotees in America should write directly to these men for initiation. Nearby, said Prabhupada. And he named 3 more disciples leading devotees in Europe. 5, 6 men may divide, said Prabhupada. Whoever is nearest. Tamal Krishna asked whether this would apply to both first and second initiation. Prabhupada said yes. So there is no need for devotees to write to you for first and second initiation, said Tamal Krishna. They can write to the man nearest them, but all these persons are still your disciples. Anybody who would give initiation is doing so on your behalf. Yes, said Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna asked if there was anyone in India that Srila Prabhupada wanted to do this. And Srila Prabhupada added another name. Srila Prabhupada asked to hear the names he had given, and Tamal Krishna recited 7 names. That's all, said Prabhupada. Now you distribute. For the time being, 7 names. Then he added 2 more. So without waiting for me, said Prabhupada, whoever you consider deserves, that will depend on discretion. Srila Prabhupada said nothing else. And after a few minutes, Tamal Krishna asked if Prabhupada would like to hear a kirtana. Srila Prabhupada assented by a slight gesture, and the chanters who had been waiting came to join him. The next morning, Srila Prabhupada added 2 more names, making a total of 11 disciples who would act as Ritvik, representatives of the Acharya. Srila Prabhupada had not liked the idea of newcomers to ISKCON having to wait unnecessarily long to be initiated. Now, initiations could continue regularly at the discretion of his 11 selected men. July 10th, Tamal Krishna received a phone call from Gopala Krishna. The Mayapur temple had been attacked by a gang of 300 dacoits, hoodlums. 5 devotees were wounded and in the hospital. Bhavananda Goswami had fired a shotgun at the attackers, injuring 2. The police, who didn't arrive until 2 hours after being called, had arrested Bhavananda and put him in jail. Srila Prabhupada became disturbed. If the dacoits attacked and we used our shotgun, he said, what is wrong? Later that day, Prabhupada heard the Hindustan Times version of the attack. According to the news report, some cows had wandered onto ISKCON property and the devotees had beaten the cows. This had angered the villagers who, on coming to the temple to complain, had been shot at. 2 had been injured. The article named Bhavananda Goswami and at the end mentioned that the founder of the temple, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, had not been present. Srila Prabhupada heard the article, made a few comments, and went on with his afternoon's writing and translating as usual. But late that afternoon, he called for Tamal Krishna. I am afraid of a big conspiracy, he said. The last line of the article says that the founder Acharya was not present. They were sorry. They would have arrested me and put me in jail. Tamal Krishna scoffed that the news article was one-sided. That doesn't sound right, he said. That the devotees beat the cows. Devotees don't beat cows. Within a few days, a letter came from Gopala Krishna giving the facts of the Mayapur incident. About 50 Muslim men were stealing crops from the ISKCON land. When Nitai Chanda tried to stop them, they attacked him, cutting his head in 3 places. Later, while he was being treated in the temple infirmary, the men came and beat Nitai Chanda and stripped one of the ladies naked. Meanwhile, another 250 men attacked, breaking the gates, cutting phone and electric wires, and destroying the water pumps. Wanting to scare the mob, Bhavananda had fired a shot in the air, but when they did not disperse, he fired another shot, injuring 2 men. In the meantime, the attackers had broken both hands of one of the Gurukula teachers and beaten many other devotees. 2 hours later, the police arrived and recommended the devotees go to Krishnanagar police station, 20 miles away, file a complaint. When the devotees had reached the station, they had been arrested, and the two seriously injured devotees were denied medical treatment. Bhavananda Goswami was still in jail. Prabhupada said it was a plot to drive away the Hare Krishna men. They want that all Bengal be completely godless, he said. When Tamal Krishna suggested that this incident would hurt their village preaching, Prabhupada replied, no, it will be our favor very soon. I think the central government will take action. This is the same as Kamsa against Krishna. Krishna must win. No one can defeat Krishna. If I had been there, they would have charged that I ordered the shooting and arrested me. Now I am an old man. I cannot take an active stand. So you all must do everything carefully. Prabhupada continued to think and comment on the incident. The Gunda, hoodlum class doesn't like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said. They say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made people emasculated. In Orissa, they say that after Maharaja Pratapa Rudra met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lost his Kshatriya strength. He was a very powerful king, but after he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became effeminate. So, what is our reply to that? Asked Tamal Krishna. What can you reply? Said Srila Prabhupada. If they conclude something like that, they have no idea of spiritual life. They say this is disruptive. Lord Chaitanya is saying, Nadanam Najanam. We don't want such things and they want them. So, how can you reply to such people? Everyone wants this, and we say that we don't want it. How can you make a compromise with such people? In your country, also they say, what is wrong with illicit sex? What is wrong with intoxication? They say we are brainwashing, is it not? It is very difficult to push on this movement. Still, we are doing. That is Krishna's grace. Seeing that Srila Prabhupada was disturbed, Tamal Krishna suggested, will you try to translate this afternoon, Srila Prabhupada? But Prabhupada continued on the same point. A young, beautiful woman comes at the dead of night to see Haridas Thakura, to offer her body, and he denied. Who will appreciate this? We appreciate, said Tamal Krishna. You appreciate, said Prabhupada. But in the modern world, who will appreciate? Prabhupada continued pointing out the irrevocable split between the devotees and the non-devotees. Their idea is that a young man cannot live without a young woman. And yet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, oh, you are after a young woman? That is more dangerous than drinking poison. As Prabhupada spoke of the Mayapur devotees who had been willing to sacrifice their lives for Krishna, he became choked with emotion and began to cry. Krishna will give them protection, he said, our Mayapur men. He mentioned how Haridas Thakura had also been put into jail and beaten, and how Prahlad Maharaja had been tortured until Lord Narasimha had appeared. Don't be worried, said Srila Prabhupada, crying and speaking as if all his Mayapur devotees were directly in front of him. Krishna will protect you. We are doing our best as far as our intelligence goes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted that in every nook and corner of the world, this movement should be pushed. We are limited. In an attempt to ease Prabhupada's sorrow, Tamal Krishna started reading the latest report from Ganashyama, who was distributing books in Eastern Europe. The report of extraordinary success drew Prabhupada's attention away from Mayapur. He smiled and said, "That is dynamic." Tamal Krishna continued reading the report. "Everywhere we go, people either know about you or they are very eager to find out about Krishna and yourself by reading your books. Anyone who has distributed your books in the communist countries will support my claim that nowhere in the world are people more appreciative of your books." Tamal Krishna looked up from the letter and commented, "He has been everywhere, Prabhupada. And he says that your books are more appreciated in the communist countries than anywhere else in the world." "Yes," said Srila Prabhupada, "they are hungry." A few days later, a full on-the-scene report came in the mail from Jayapataka Swami in Mayapur. The local Hindus of Mayapur were outraged at what had happened and were mobilizing mass petitions in support of the ISKCON temple. Although the newspaper reports were false, gradually people were learning the facts. Jayapataka reported vivid details of Babananda and other devotees being marched through Navadipa in chains on their way to court, and the people of Navadipa offering them respects. The devotees were still in jail, he said, constantly chanting Hare Krishna. On the whole, the report was optimistic. Prasadam distribution was continuing in Mayapur, book distribution in West Bengal was increasing, and the preaching parties were well received wherever they went. Srila Prabhupada's prediction was coming true. The incident was turning in the devotees' favor. He commented that the enemies had thought they were digging up a garden snake by attacking Krishna's devotees, but they were finding that they had, in fact, unearthed a cobra. July was a good month for Srila Prabhupada's work on Srimad Bhagavatam. He continued dictating very early in the morning and in the afternoon, completing chapters 8 and 9 of the 10th canto. It was his great pleasure to do so. Working on Srimad Bhagavatam, he was completely transcendental to his physical condition, despite the accompanying heart palpitations and despite his faint voice and general weakness. Even to sit was difficult, and yet, once he began working, nothing could stop him. Speaking into the hand microphone of his dictating machine, oblivious to his bodily condition, Prabhupada described patiently and melodiously how Nanda Maharaj's family priest, Gargamuni, performed the name-giving ceremony for baby Krishna. In his purports, Srila Prabhupada often spoke from his personal experiences and realizations. This is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and devotees also have the same mission. One who executes this mission of para upakara, performing welfare activities for people in general, is recognized by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as being very, very dear to him. Nacha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priya krittama. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advised this para upakara, and he has especially instructed the inhabitants of India. On the whole, the duty of a pure Vaishnava devotee is to act for the welfare of others, sometimes sitting in the pre-dawn open air on the second floor veranda, and sometimes in the humid heat of bright afternoon. Srila Prabhupada worked, describing the limitless Vedic knowledge, just as his predecessors, the Goswamis and Krishnadasa Kaviraja, had done when worshipping Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. while living in Vrindavana. Srila Prabhupada, however, was the first great Acharya to make Krishna conscious literature available to persons of all countries throughout the world, regardless of birth status or previous character. Even as he composed the latest chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, thousands of young men and women were working on his behalf to preach the Vedic message to the world. His disciples were, in fact, keenly aware of how Srila Prabhupada was producing the 10th canto purports in Vrindavana, and they prayed to Lord Krishna that he be allowed to continue for many years so that he could complete the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. In explaining the infant pastimes of Lord Krishna, Srila Prabhupada described an entirely transcendental mode of consciousness beyond material designations of babyhood or old age. All these pastimes of Krishna and the great enjoyment exhibited by the mothers are transcendental. Nothing about them is material. They are described in Brahma Samhita as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. In the spiritual world, there is anxiety, there is crying, and there are other feelings similar to those of material world. But because the reality of these feelings is in the transcendental world, of which this world is only an imitation, Mother Yashoda and Rogini enjoyed them transcendentally. Srila Prabhupada was now rendering a particularly sweet part of Krishna's pastimes, and with relish he described Krishna stealing butter and feeding it to the monkeys, and is showing the universal form to Mother Yashoda in describing how the vision of Krishna's universal form was beyond Mother Yashoda's comprehension. Srila Prabhupada shed light on all incomprehensible situations, including his own. She, Mother Yashoda, could do nothing but offer obeisances to the Lord. One should not try to understand the supreme cause by argument or reasoning. When we are beset by some problem for which we can find no reason, there is no alternative than to surrender to the Supreme Lord and offer Him our respectful obeisances. Then our position will be secure. This was the means adopted in this instance also by Mother Yashoda. Whatever happens, the original cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the immediate cause cannot be ascertained, let us simply offer our obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord. Mother Yashoda concluded that the wonderful things she saw in the mouth of her child were due to him, although she could not clearly ascertain the cause. Srila Prabhupada made deep and joyful appreciations of the pure devotion of Mother Yashoda for baby Krishna, and he described her as the emblem of all pure devotees of the Lord, especially the residents of Vrindavana, who love the Lord in spontaneous affection. The pure devotees who inhabit Vrindavana, he wrote, do not possess any bodily conception. Such pure devotees were fully dedicated to the service of the Lord in sublime affection, prema. This had been described by Lord Chaitanya, he said, as the highest perfection of life, pure love in relationship with Krishna. And Mother Yashoda, Srila Prabhupada wrote, appears to be the topmost of all the devotees to attain this perfection. Srila Prabhupada was concerned that what he wrote be published and distributed. It was his service to his Guru Maharaja, and he received great satisfaction in hearing that book distribution was still expanding all over the world. Arikesha Swami the GBC of Northern and Eastern Europe reported that he was printing a very large quantity of books in 13 languages. After hearing only the beginning of this report, Srila Prabhupada explained all the blessings of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj on you. You are the most important grandson of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Go on doing like this. In a similar mood, Srila Prabhupada pushed his GBC secretary for India, Gopala Krishna, to produce Hindi books faster and in greater quantities. Whenever Gopala Krishna came to visit Srila Prabhupada without a new publication, Prabhupada would reprimand him for his slowness. Gopala Krishna therefore began a policy of visiting Prabhupada only when he had a new book to present. In mid-July, when Gopala Krishna brought a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, part 2 in Hindi, Srila Prabhupada accepted it happily and said, twice now, unless he brings some book, he won't come. Because every time I criticize him, where is the book? Where is the book? July 20th. Abhirama arrived and reported to Srila Prabhupada about Mayapur. There was nothing new in his report. Later, Srila Prabhupada inquired from Tamal Krishna why Abhirama had come. Tamal Krishna explained that Abhirama had decided to take up business but was undecided which city to work in, perhaps Bangalore or Bombay. Later, after Srila Prabhupada had retired for the night and was laying in bed under his mosquito net, he again called for Tamal Krishna. Prabhupada was concerned that Abhirama not drift away from the Krishna consciousness movement on the plea of looking for business. Srila Prabhupada said that he himself had lived independently in Grahastha life and so had Bhaktivinoda Thakura. But our aim was different, he said. When these neophytes remain aloof from the temple connection without attending the functions, gradually they will be lost. Tamal Krishna replied that for that very reason, he had suggested to Abhirama that he make his business in Bombay. Actually, said Tamal Krishna, I find the Grahasthas have no desire to live independent of the temples. He explained that in the Bombay temple, the Grahasthas could get apartments near enough to the temple so that they could attend Mangala Arati and other functions. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. Unless these things are continued, the karmi's poison will spoil them. He can do independent business, there is no harm. But he must be connected with devotional service. Srila Prabhupada had not moved his body while talking, but he had turned his head slightly. Now he laid his head on the pillow. Just like Abhirama constructed that house, Prabhupada continued. That is all right. It is within the campus. There is no harm. But if now he goes away after so much training and advancement, if they are lost, then that is a great loss for the society. With great difficulty, we make one Vaishnava. And again, if he goes like Shama Sundara, then it is a great loss. The whole idea is to give up attachment for the material world and increase attachment for Krishna. That is perfection. Now, according to one's position, it can be done gradually, but this is the aim. Srila Prabhupada told Abhirama that by doing a business in Bombay, he could benefit by living near the temple. Grahasthas should not be dependent on the society, he said. At the same time, they should not be independent of the society. Srila Prabhupada laughed at the apparent contradiction. This is the position, he said. Our society cannot take charge of a family. There will be so many numbers of families. How we will support? At the same time, If they remain independent of the society without touch, then the karmi's poison will infect them. Srila Prabhupada concluded that the solution for the Grahastha was either to get an apartment near the temple or to live in the temple if possible. They should not live completely independent, he said. That will be future danger. Srila Prabhupada said he wanted ideal Krishna conscious Grahasthas. Just like Bhaktivinoda Thakura, he said, there are many. I was Grahastha also. There was deity worship, everything nice. I was publishing back to Godhead as Grahastha. So the aim of Krishna consciousness was there. I could not leave family life because of certain circumstances. That is a different thing. But I must be in touch with devotional service as in the temple. If you live nearby the temple, it is easier, or in the temple. But if he remains aloof, that is dangerous. When Tamal Krishna brought up some problematic details of Grahasthas living in the temple buildings, Srila Prabhupada stayed to his main point and said, anyway, these things have to be adjusted. You cannot follow very rigidly in the case of Grahasthas. Somehow you have to adjust. We cannot allow them to be lost. Prabhupada saw with alarm that after much training, a Grahastha couple could be lost simply because they disassociated themselves from the temple. It would be a great loss. And in an attempt to avoid it, he was instructing one of his GBC representatives. Prabhupada said, unless this danger was curbed, then the future of our society becomes hopeless. Srila Prabhupada's servant Upendra was also present, and he asked Prabhupada about a man's responsibility to maintain his wife and family. A man should not marry, said Prabhupada, unless he had the power of maintaining his family. He should not expect the temple to. Why should we maintain a Grahastha? Said Srila Prabhupada. And where is the means? But these things are all to be adjusted. I can give you the idea. Then Prabhupada gave the example that if a Grahastha was maintaining the deity worship gorgeously in the temple, that was also preaching, and the temple could consider maintaining such a man's family. So the guiding principle, said Tamal Krishna, should be that under no circumstances should anyone become lost. Yes, said Prabhupada. Or else, where is the preaching? It will be like Alexander the Great. He was conquering, but as soon as he went to conquer a new place, the last place was lost. Suppose I have conquered Bombay, then I go to Karachi, but in the meantime, Bombay is lost. That was being done by Alexander the Great. When there is no proper management, just like the British Empire was lost in that way, they could not manage. So similarly, we should not expand too quickly, suggested Tamal Krishna, unless we have the proper management. I am therefore stressing book selling, said Prabhupada. He wanted to impress upon his leaders the main outlines of his program, and it should be their duty to carry these programs out. At least don't make me Alexander the Great in my lifetime. He laughed. They say to me, you are great, 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 but don't make me it small while I am living. Or after, said Tamal Krishna, we will never make you that way. We should never do that. Then, said Prabhupada, that is my request. People recognize I am great. Don't make me small. I will not give you much trouble, but I am now invalid. What can I do? It seems like even if you are invalid, said Tamal Krishna, it gives us more opportunity to serve you. Thank you, said Srila Prabhupada. What can I do? He laughed softly and said, I have to give you that opportunity. It seems that is your mercy to us, said Tamal Krishna. All right, go on, said Prabhupada, dismissing them. Jai Prabhupada, thank you for all your merciful instructions. July 22nd. In the morning, Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada that on the following day, Lord Jagannatha would travel down Fifth Avenue in New York City. Lord Jagannatha is very kind to the Malachas, Prabhupada said. Orients are mostly Malachas, but still they are made pujaris. One devotee criticized an Orion and Lord Chaitanya slapped him. Why do you criticize my servants? Just see his kindness. I pray to Krishna, anyone who has given a little service, please bless him. And Krishna actually does. He doesn't forget any service done. Tamal Krishna inquired, doesn't Radharani also pray like this? Pray like that to Krishna? Yes, said Prabhupada. Radharani says, I am not sincere. Here is your real servant. That is Mahabhava. Krishna becomes a servant to his servant. Therefore, a disciple's first duty is to be submissive to his guru. Srila Prabhupada said, Tamal Krishna, all your devotees are very much grateful to you. Srila Prabhupada suddenly became immersed in thoughts of his devotees and he became very ecstatic. Closing his eyes and rocking his head, he spoke with a choked voice and tears. Oh, your intense love for me. I am living for you. All over the world, everything is going on. Money is coming and being spent, and I don't have to worry. I am so much indebted, and I am taking so much service from you all. It is we who are indebted, said Tamal Krishna. There is no way we can ever pay this debt to you, Srila Prabhupada. That is a Brihad Mridanga, said Prabhupada. I am beating from this room and the sound goes 10,000 miles away. Our enemies are surprised how this man is still going on. Srila Prabhupada went on appreciating how people in so many cities were enjoying the Ratha Yatra festivals, seeing Lord Jagannatha and dancing and chanting. He remembered past Ratha Yatras such as in 1969 in San Francisco, when some of the devotees were dancing joyously around the tree. He began recalling many other past wonderful experiences in ISKCON. Toward the end of July, Prabhupada's health seemed to be worsening again. And again, he mentioned that the end might come at any moment.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tamal Krishna had been acting as Srila Prabhupada's personal secretary for 6 continuous months, and he had become Prabhupada's eyes and ears and his spokesman, especially in dealing with ISKCON management. And he had also become personal confidant, assisting Srila Prabhupada in his transcendental moods. As a sincere servant, he now began suggesting a different remedy. Srila Prabhupada had recently been feeling and expressing intense devotion shortest disciples in their preaching. Taking this as a cue, Tamal Krishna suggested that if Prabhupada could travel to the West and be with his disciples there, he would find new life. But if I die, said Srila Prabhupada, I want to do so in Vrindavan. Tamal Krishna replied that Srila Prabhupada should not think of dying. If he would go on a tour of the West, see the devotees there, take prasadam made from food grown on the ISKCON farms, then certainly he would respond to such devotion and regain his appetite and strength. Tamal Krishna pointed out that when Srila Prabhupada had been feeling like this in May, and the GBC had come, he had responded to their reciprocation of love by increasing his own desire to live. One thing you can do, said Prabhupada, in your daily routine, you can pray to Krishna. If you want him to stay, please cure him, and if not, please take him away. We are fully surrendered to you. Now it depends on your desire to keep him alive or let him leave this world. Srila Prabhupada was pointing out that he was not a victim of some mundane moroseness robbing him of a will to live. He had already said that he would be with Krishna in any case. Staying in this world or leaving it was not up to him, but up to Krishna. He recited the prayer of King Kulashikara from the Mukunda Mala Stotra. My dear Krishna, please let me die immediately so that the swan of my mind can be encircled by the stem of your lotus feet. Now, while I am strong. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up, how will it be possible to think of you? Tamal Krishna persisted in his affectionate line, however, insisting that Srila Prabhupada could not think of leaving. There was so much unfinished business for Prabhupada in this world, such as personally seeing to the installation of the deities of Radha Rasa Bihari in the Bombay temple. Srila Prabhupada admitted it was so and added, another ambition I have is that the populace is suffering from agnosticism. The rascals are suffering, but they do not know why. I want to drive away agnosticism from the world. Tamal Krishna assured Srila Prabhupada that if he were to go to the West, agnosticism would be driven out. The devotees were already working hard on Srila Prabhupada's instruction, but if they could have his physical presence, they would increase their preaching unlimitedly. Tamal Krishna no longer kept himself only in a passive role, waiting for the spiritual master to ring the bell and then waiting to hear what he wanted. Now he was trying to persuade Srila Prabhupada to travel. And as Prabhupada began to consider it, he became enthusiastic. When I am in Vrindavan, said Prabhupada, it is transcendental. That much mercy Krishna has shown me. And wherever there is our center, that is also Vaikuntha, New York, Los Angeles, Paris, or London. Tamal Krishna offered an itinerary, a visit to London, staying at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, and also seeing Radha Londoneshwara, then to New York and seeing the devotees in the ISKCON skyscraper with Radha Govinda, then to the farm in Pennsylvania, then Los Angeles, where you can see the new dioramas of Krishna's pastimes. To remain in Vrindavan is a sentiment, Srila Prabhupada agreed. In New York, if I die, you will have to entomb me on the roof, he joked grimly. There is no other room. If I die, as long as I die among you, you are all Vaikuntha men. I had a dream that your Vaikuntha men came to take me. They were all white men with shaven heads. Your countrymen cannot believe how you have changed. Srila Prabhupada said that they should consult an astrologer to see whether it was auspicious for him to travel and whether he would be cured and how long he would live. I was born in the evening at 4 p.m., said Srila Prabhupada. It was Nandotsava. You can consult an old Panjika to see the day. It was a Tuesday. I am prepared to go to the West. Tamal Krishna then quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 37, where Krishna tells Arjuna to fight. Either you will die and achieve the heavenly planets or conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Srila Prabhupada said the verse was appropriate. Throughout the night and the next day, he considered the traveling proposal and mentioned to his other servants, Kamal is arranging a big party. I was praying to Krishna. What is this slow death? Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna. Then you quoted that verse. At least my disciples will know I came at the risk of my life. They are the future hope. I must enthuse them. Krishna ordered Arjuna, and I am Arjuna's servant. I am not so limited to think that this is my country. Everything is Krishna's. Why should I limit Krishna? Tamal Krishna gave encouragement. When you get there with so many devotees who are giving their lives for spreading Krishna consciousness and assisting you, it will really be enthusing. And you won't have to speak so much. It's your presence. You're seeing the devotees and them seeing you. So in that sense, it won't be exhausting. It's a good climate now too. August in London, it's a very good time. Prabhupada turned to Upendra and said, his words are making me feel different. Just hearing, I become enthusiastic. Srila Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna, by going west, I know you will recover. May Krishna fulfill your words, said Srila Prabhupada. He spent the rest of that afternoon hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita readings from various devotees. At one point, he began to express great bliss and said, read Chaitanya Charitamrita always to me, these 3 books. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. There is no comparison in the world. I may boast like this. I am fortunate to be able to present these books throughout the world, and people are accepting them even blindly. After a day had passed, Srila Prabhupada considered the travel proposal seriously and mentioned some of its defects. Lately, said Tamal Krishna. Who says I shall never again translate? Prabhupada countered. Every action has some relaxation and then activity again. Prabhupada said that according to allopathic medicine, the only hope for him was to enter a hospital and undergo intensive medical treatment. According to Ayurvedic medicine, however, there were specific medicines. As Prabhupada sat on his balcony, speaking with his secretary, he wore sunglasses. He would wear them even late in the day or in a dark room. To his disciples, this was another source of worry, that he appeared to have problems seeing. Such things, the prospects of traveling to the West seemed doubtful. Why couldn't he just stay in Vrindavan? Some of the devotees reasoned, where everything was arranged for his convenience. The devotees had sent messages to 3 astrologers, and all the reports returned that same afternoon. Some of the reports offered absurd remedies without knowledge of Srila Prabhupada's position, but all of them agreed on one point. The next 2 months would be the most difficult of Prabhupada's life. Traveling should be avoided. One astrologer recommended that Srila Prabhupada wear a blue sapphire. So it is not hopeless, Srila Prabhupada said after hearing all the reports, at least for the next 5 weeks, keep me very, the time blue sapphire and chant Governor of Tamil Nadu, Prabhupada has put far out now, but Prabhupada's entered within their time. When Srila Prabhupada condition of health, the governor at once invited Srila Prabhupada to come to Madras and but Prabhupada, rather than prolong the discussion of the body, used his bodily condition to Krishna consciousness. After all, he said, then Mrityu Jara Vyadi, death, old disease, we have to, it's repetition of birth and death. When Vishwamitra Maharaj went to see King Dasarath, the king inquired, Punar Janma Jaya, you are a great saintly person trying to conquer over birth and death. Is your process going nicely? Prabhupada then used the example of his bodily condition in a different way to illustrate the concept of Varnashram Dharma. He compared the Brahmins to the head, the Kshatriyas to the arms, Vaishyas to the belly, and Shudras to the legs. If they're all in good condition, then the health is all right, said Prabhupada. Now, at the present moment, I'm suffering because my belly department is not working. So we cannot neglect any department. There must be all departments, and then they must be cooperative and healthy. This movement is meant for that purpose. It is the duty of government to give us protection. Srila Prabhupada mentioned the devotees' recent difficulties in Mayapur and asked for protection. We'll do it, no doubt, Governor Patwari replied. I'm meeting the Prime Minister tomorrow, and we're going to discuss that matter. The governor acknowledged that the reports in the newspaper were distorted. He asserted that Madras had a good atmosphere for religious work, and he mentioned several swamis who were doing good work. Of one, he said, he is making good propaganda about Gita everywhere. There are many persons making propaganda, said Prabhupada frankly, but if you don't mind my saying so, all these men are in ignorance of what the real meaning of Gita, Bhagavad Gita, he said, should be understood as it is, and it should be adopted especially by the Rajarshis, or government leaders. Again, the governor saw how nice it would be if Prabhupada would come to Madras. Prabhupada seemed to consider it seriously and thanked the governor. Finally, Prabhupada requested help in getting the permanent residency in India for some of his disciples. They will never do any harm, he said. They will never take part in politics. I know it, said the governor, I know it. So kindly try to help, said Prabhupada. Later, when Prabhupada mentioned he was 50% decided to go to Madras, he and his servants began discussing the merits of travel to Madras and other places in the world. Although he could not move even a few feet without assistance, if Krishna desired, he was willing to travel. July of 1977 was special for pious Hindus, and the people of Vrindavan spent extra time in reading scriptures and visiting holy places. So by the end of July, when the trees and bushes were freshening with green leaves, pilgrims came in crowds to Vrindavan and to the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Despite the mud and the rain, many of the people were in a jubilant mood, relieved from the oppressive heat and anticipating Julian Yatra, the swing festival of Radha Krishna. Julian Yatra was Vrindavan's biggest festival and would occur in mid-August this year. The local newspapers were giving reports of Srila Prabhupada's health, and a genuine concern for his well-being prevailed throughout Vrindavan and surrounding villages. Therefore, because of the festival season, as well as out of concern for Srila Prabhupada, many people were coming to the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Those who came around 9 a.m. got to see Srila Prabhupada when he went for his morning darshan of the deities. Srila Prabhupada still had no appetite and had scarcely eaten during the past 6 weeks. He was no longer regular in his times for sleeping, taking massage, or sitting up and translating. Feeling himself to be at a critical period, he had given permission for the devotees all over ISKCON to recite a simple prayer. My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada. He would regularly go before the deities each morning wearing his dark sunglasses and sitting erect in the rocking chair. He would hold his palms together in a gesture of prayer, while 2 men, one in front and one behind, carefully carried the rocker from Prabhupada's room into the temple room. They would set the chair down first before the deities of Gaur-Nitai, then before Krishna Balaram, and then before Radha Shyamasundar. Then they would carry him to a central spot in the courtyard under the tamal tree and set his chair down on the black and white checkered marble floor. Srila Prabhupada would sit facing Krishna Balaram, and the deities would sit around him and begin a kirtan. As the kirtan began, 2 Gurukula boys would rise and come in front of him, where they would begin dancing with arms upraised, their cotton shutters swinging back and forth. Prabhupada would usually not speak or even smile, but after a few minutes would give his garlands to a devotee who would place them around the necks of the dancers. Soon, 2 other young boys would come forward, and the first boys would garland them with the garlands they had received from Srila Prabhupada and sit down. For half an hour, the dancing and singing continued. Guests to the temple would gather, many of them offering money at Prabhupada's feet, which rested on an embroidered silk cushion. Srila Prabhupada was gaining resolve to go to the West. One of the astrologers had said that by the 4th of September, after checking with a physician, Srila Prabhupada could undertake travel, but for health only. I will go there to our Pennsylvania farm, said Srila Prabhupada, and he appeared hopeful. He didn't consider the astrologers absolute guides. He had consulted them more out of curiosity. Astrology was part of the Vedic knowledge, but the modern day practitioners were often dubious. When Abhiram came from Delhi with a report from a new astrologer, Srila Prabhupada heard it while continuing to chant intently and silently on his beads. His main point, Prabhupada said, Abhiram, was that for 6 months there is trouble, especially in the first week of September, and again on certain dates in October and November. The longevity is 82 years, 5 months, and 11 days, which means February 28th, 1978. This is according to birth and stars arrangement. But he made it very clear that due to the hand of Krishna, this could be changed. And if you can pass through 1978, then he sees 4 or 5 years ahead clear. When the report was finished, Srila Prabhupada was quiet for a few minutes and then said, by calculation, the age is finished. That doesn't matter. Rather, I am finished now. It will be glorious. Living will also be glorious, said Tamal Krishna. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada, let us see as Krishna desires. Other horoscopes also showed an inauspicious time ahead due to the entry of Saturn into the 8th house. Srila Prabhupada took this to indicate that his condition was most critical. In either case, whether according to the stars or according to Krishna, who could change destiny? Everything was in Krishna's hands, but Srila Prabhupada was still inclined to tour the West. If I can work a little more, he said, our society will be very strong. I want to see that what I have done is made still stronger. Prabhupada's talk of travel, however, coincided with increasing weakness. He talked less. When Tamal Krishna tried to encourage him to translate, he replied, when I get inspiration, I will take it up. Don't try to force me. I'm going through a difficult time, and I'm now feeling restless. It is not mechanical. The Julian Yatra pilgrims were mostly villagers. Many were from Rajasthan. The men and women wearing brightly colored clothes and the women wearing heavy gold and silver bangles and bracelets, which clanked as they walked barefoot on the roads. The numbers of mendicant sadhus also increased, and they became a common sight with their ash or clay-covered bodies marked with brightly colored tilak. The Yamuna had flooded in many places and was too swift for bathing or swimming. Thousands of visitors came to the Krishna Balaram temples in all of northern India. The evening stand in the back of the courtyard at the edge of a packed, jostling crowd. Some of the Gurukula boys would greet the guests with Hindi Back to Godhead magazines, each boy selling 200 or 300 magazines a night. Srila Prabhupada was glad to hear this. A few of Srila Prabhupada's disciples from the West also arrived just to be with him, hoping to render some menial service. When Prabhupada received them in his dark, cool quarters, he was sitting up on his bed. One of the arrivals, Madhavis, had left Krishna consciousness for more than a year, but now came before Prabhupada shaven-headed and wearing Vaishnav tilak. Don't leave us, said Prabhupada feelingly. You can stay as Grahasta, but don't leave us. To Satsrup, Prabhupada said, I like your magazine, Back to Godhead, especially the article Srila Prabhupada Speaks Out. Shrutakirti, who had come from Hawaii, showed Prabhupada some candles they were producing and selling, and Prabhupada laughed. You Westerners, he said, there is no scarcity of money, but now I have taught you how to spend it. For more than half an hour, Prabhupada went on talking pleasantly. Later, Tamal Krishna told the devotees that Prabhupada's outlook seemed to change depending on the people around him and the news he received. He told them of Prabhupada's plans to go to the West. That evening, when Srila Prabhupada called for Tamal Krishna and the others, the devotees gathered and went up to Prabhupada's balcony, not knowing what to expect. Srila Prabhupada was lying on his bed. Sit down, he said. I want to simply see you all. It gives me vital force. Mercifully and lovingly, he looked upon his devotees as they sat around him. The air was filled with frankincense, billowing from the pots of coals Upendra had prepared for keeping mosquitoes away. Evening arati began in the temple, and the sounds of the kirtan rose to the little balcony. One by one, the men present began to massage Prabhupada. Shrutikirti and Satsvarup were each massaging a leg while Tamal Krishna managed Prabhupada's head. Another devotee fanned Prabhupada, who lay back with his eyes closed peacefully. You are all Vaishnavas, he said. Be merciful to me. Srila Prabhupada frankly wanted to hear good news. It inspired him to continue. He didn't want to hear other news. His secretary would read him letters in the afternoon, and Prabhupada began allowing other devotees to be present. Once when they entered his room, he said, if in this world there is one Vrindavan, he can deliver all the world. One Vaishnav, he can deliver all the world. You are that one Vaishnav, Srila Prabhupada said, Satsvarup. You become, said Srila Prabhupada, each of you. Why not? We can try, said Guru Kripa Swami. Yes, try, said Srila Prabhupada, but follow, do not imitate. Today we have a letter about book distribution, said Tamal Krishna, the monthly report. That is real good news, said Prabhupada, and he listened with full attention as Tamal Krishna read the BBT newsletter. He was pleased and absorbed, sometimes shaking his head and smiling to hear the achievements of his disciples. Then he heard a long letter from Ganesham about his book distribution in Eastern Europe. When he heard a letter from Tulsidas, who was developing Krishna's conscious community farm in South Africa, he commented, this letter makes my chest swell that I have such disciples performing such activities. In another letter, the devotee wrote,
Finish? Huh?
Yeah, it just quit. All of a sudden, the whole front just went,
Really?
yeah, it just stopped.
Oh, what, something wrong?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what. I'm trying to get the screen back up, but it's not coming back up.
The internet.
Huh? I can't read it. I don't know what's
No,
going on.
maybe internet.
Something like that, I guess. I don't know. Oh,
So this is one box. Second one?
well, I think so. I'm not sure.
Still, this guy is still now map. मैं प्रभु
Mhm.
Harris को the Harris he
What
wrote
now?
the Prabhupada is Lilamrta written by this guy.
I have no
Harris
idea. I don't know.
No. Who wrote this? Prabhupada?
Oh, Satsvarup.
Huh?
Satsvarup Maharaj.
No, the Harishwari.
No, Satsvarup wrote this.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta. That's written by Satsvarup Maharaj.
Oh, Harishwari.
No.
That's
Harisari's in it. He's mentioned in it but Satsvarup wrote it.
all.
The whole thing, yeah.
So where is it right now? You know?
As far as I know, he's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's got a small place in Gitanagari farm.
But he still he with ISKCON.
Yeah.
He never go any place.
He's not in good health.
Oh,
He's having health problems.
you can check it out here. Prabhuji, one check it out here.
Uh, no,
Huh?
it's got to be. I'm having trouble with this. Imagine what I would try to do with that. Nothing. Impossible. In another letter, the devotee wrote a prayer stating that all his godbrothers were praying for Prabhupada and he hoped that Krishna would respond. Surely, said Prabhupada, I am practically living on your prayers. I haven't eaten in the last 6 months, so I must simply be living on your prayers. And hearing in a letter from South America that devotees were praying for him, he said, I think I'll have to stay. Krishna is very kind. He is Bhaktavatsal. So many devotees are praying. They cannot be frustrated. I think this is why I'm feeling inspiration to go out. In this condition, anyone else would prepare for death, but I am going on tour. I don't think of it as sentiment. Krishna is actually present as the Krishna consciousness movement. I am not without Vrindavan wherever I go to our temples. Pancha Dravida Swami wrote that he would exchange his youth for Srila Prabhupada's old age. We are the same age, said Srila Prabhupada. The body has nothing to do with the Atma. In the Vaikuntha world, we are the same age. New life, new boys, Navyovana. The outward dress does not affect one. As a further reply to Pancha Dravida, Prabhupada dictated, may God give you long life. May Krishna give you long life and preach Krishna consciousness. You are our future hope. For the devotees who had not been with Prabhupada in months, it was like old times, sitting with him and hearing him answer letters and give advice for becoming victorious in Krishna consciousness. Hearing him discourse made everything all right. But as they were leaving his room, he said softly, these are my last days. When Tamal Krishna got an especially dynamic report from Hamsadutta Swami in Sri Lanka, he decided to bring it to Srila Prabhupada early in the morning. Prabhupada had just finished his bath and was sitting upstairs on the balcony just before his 9:30 darshan in the temple. He wore a tulsi garland from Krishna Balaram, as well as a fresh flower garland. He reclined on a round bolster pillow and listened. Hamsadutta's letter contained news of a debate he was having with a famous atheist in Colombo, a Dr. Kovur. As soon as Tamal Krishna began to read the letter, however, Prabhupada asked to hear Dr. Kavur's response. Tamal Krishna then began reading from a newspaper clipping enclosed in the letter. Das and Swami asked whether scientists can make a chicken to come out of a plastic egg, Tamal Krishna read. I do not know whether they are aware that scientists have made over 10 elements, such as fermium, plutonium, and Einsteinium. Prabhupada interrupted. Rascal, you are simply producing empty sound. Where is the chicken, rascal? The chicken, the hen, is better than the scientist. She has produced another egg within a week. You simply say this and that, this and that, this and that. That's all. What is your value? We don't give you any value. You are less important than the chicken. Tamal Krishna resumed reading. We have created over 10 elements that even God, again, Prabhupada interrupted. Who cares for your creation? Without your creation, the egg is there. No, he says, Tamal Krishna went back to reading the text. Even God could not create them because he did not know the technology involved in making them. God kicks on your mouth, said Prabhupada. He doesn't require to take your creation. Without your creation, he can do everything. God kicks on your mouth with shoes. Talkative nonsense. Tell him like that. I'm sure Hamsadutta did, said Tamal Krishna. Next, we'll read his reply. Anyway, the scientist goes on. Are these two men aware of the success of the Sri Lanka scientists? Dr. Prabhupada said, who cares as scientists? Nobel Prize winner in synthesizing amino acids. Nobel Prize winner, scoffed Srila Prabhupada. Another rascal has given him a Nobel Prize. He is a rascal, and another rascal has given. Suri Shakshi Matala. In the liquor house, the witness is a drunkard. If there is an incident within the liquor shop, and the proprietor of the liquor shop has brought some witness, but all of them are drunkards. What is the value of that? As soon as you are a drunkard, immediately you are rejected. Tamal Krishna read on, and Prabhupada continued to interrupt him at almost every sentence. And the devotees had not seen Prabhupada so fiery in weeks. When Tamal Krishna read Hamsadutta's reply, Prabhupada was pleased to see how many of the same points his disciple had made. He is putting very strong arguments, said Prabhupada. This is preaching. Two factors were making Srila Prabhupada indecisive about going west. One was the worldly formalities a passport and U.S. residency card, and the other was Srila Prabhupada's personal hesitancy based on reports from the astrologer. His health, of course, was the main factor, but at times he seemed ready to disregard everything and order his servants to somehow take him to London. Already he had sent Abhiram to Calcutta to deal with certain complications. His U.S. residency green card had expired, and the consulate in Delhi had insisted that he come for an interview. Meanwhile, Prabhupada's passport and temporary visa were being readied and would take 4 or 5 days. One of the Ayurvedic doctors who sometimes visited Prabhupada told him he should wait a week or so. But Prabhupada found simply working up the will for travel and then not going and then deciding again to go was exhausting. On hearing the latest news that the U.S. consulate insisted on an interview, which seemed to be a physical impossibility, he couldn't rest. Lying on his bed for hours, he finally called Tamal Krishna and said, "I want to go. Can you arrange to carry me? Somehow or other, take me. Here I don't expect any good." Psychological enthusiasm is there. Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid. Either to die in a temple here or there, it is all Vaikuntha. Tamal Krishna asked to first discuss this with a few of the GBC men who were present, but when the devotees came into Prabhupada's room that afternoon, Prabhupada said, "No discussions. I've made up my mind. Arrange immediately for going." But again, there were complications. The doctor asked Srila Prabhupada to wait another week, and Prabhupada also did not want to leave India without his green card for the US. He sent Balavanta to Calcutta to try to get the green card. With so many matters unsettled, Prabhupada remained undecided whether to go to England now or wait. "I plan to stay in America," Srila Prabhupada said. "I will not come back until I complete the Bhagavatam. I want to organize there. The American boys are so nice. If I make everything strong, then the movement will endure. Let us go now." The doctor will say 4 days for the medicine act, then wait a little longer. That is their method. Finally, a report came from Abhiram in Calcutta that the passport had been secured and the American consulate in Calcutta would help in getting the green card. Tamal Krishna ran upstairs and told Srila Prabhupada. There is very good news. Srila Prabhupada was lying down in bed, but when he heard the news, he began to slowly clap his hands, saying, "Give me good news and keep me alive." He began to think about London. "The Radha Krishna deities there are so nice," he said. "Radha London Ishvara, an innocent boy he is." Tamal Krishna reminded Srila Prabhupada how they had obtained those deities. "Yes," said Srila Prabhupada, "it was unexpected. I was in a hopeless condition, but Krishna said, 'Here I am, take me.'" Srila Prabhupada thought of the Bhaktivedanta manner. "The lawn before my room is magnificent," he said. "I think good time is coming. Madhavis has come, and Gora Sundara has come, Lost Child has come. These are good signs." As he spoke on, his voice, which had sounded at first small and weak, grew in strength. "Mistake there may be," he said, referring to the fall of some of his disciples, "but it can be rectified. At the time, be very careful not to commit mistakes. Krishna never forgets a person who does a little service." "You also never forget," said Tamal Krishna. "How can I forget? You have all helped me to execute the mission of Lord Chaitanya and my Guru Maharaj. I always pray to Krishna to give you strength. I am insignificant. I cannot do anything, but I prayed to Krishna to give you strength." Prabhupada recalled how after installing the deities in Australia, he had thought, "These mlechas and javanas, what will they do with the deity?" Then the next time he went there, he saw that they were worshiping nicely. "Try to do everything nicely," he said, "and Krishna will help. Whatever I have done has been done on this principle. Whatever my Guru Maharaj taught me, I tried to the best of my capacity to carry it out." Srila Prabhupada spoke on, carried by the waves of transcendental emotion and carrying his loving disciples with him. "When I go to America," he said, "especially Los Angeles and New York, I feel at home." At the mention of New York, he began to remember his first days there. "I was like a street boy," he said. "I was going here and there, sightseeing. I was in New York City, but one morning I saw all the walls were white. How have they become white? Who has whitewashed them? I thought. I went downstairs and there was so much snow. I went with an umbrella and purchased a pack of milk in the snow. At that time, I was living in a dungeon. It was always dark. but I didn't care. Whatever difficulty, I didn't care. I only wanted to preach. Sometimes people would touch me like men on the Bowery, but no one was inimical. Everyone was friendly, even the bums. When I went to enter my New York building, the bums would get up from where they were lying down and let me pass by. I couldn't understand the difference between friends and enemies. Prabhupada said a friend of his had been shocked to hear that he was moving to the Bowery. "Oh, Swamiji," his friend has said, "you have gone to Bowery Street? It is a horrible place." "I passed through many dangers," continued Prabhupada, "yet I couldn't understand that. Here is danger. Everywhere I thought, this is my home." Srila Prabhupada recalled random details of his first preaching endeavors at 26 Second Avenue. "I was working very hard," he said, lecturing at 7 in the morning and 7 in the evening, cooking and distributing prasadam to anyone who was coming. "Do you remember such fruit? You would bring some mango fruit. Daily you would come. Those days are past. Now I feel happiness remembering those days. Remember that boy Sriyadish? He would eat so many chapatis. He would never have enough. Every time he wanted more. I would give him 4 chapatis at a time. Kirtananda, Chutnanda, 75 people would attend that Sunday feast." Prabhupada recalled the first San Francisco temple, the first Los Angeles temple, going to Seattle, pushing Gaurasundara to go to Hawaii, receiving a letter from Govindadasi in Hawaii, who said that it was mango season, except that when Prabhupada went there, it was rat season, and all night rats were running in the rafters. "This is a new life, this Krishna consciousness," said Srila Prabhupada. "There is no doubt about it." His thoughts returned to his upcoming tour, and he said he could sleep in 3 seats across the airplane. But he cautioned the devotees to be more careful, that once he got to America, he would not get kidnapped. Previously, he had considered that Krishna may be detaining him from going to the West so that he would not be disturbed by the demons. Now he would go in any case. Prabhupada was ready to leave, but the delays and anxieties persisted. Malavanta returned from Calcutta, but Srila Prabhupada was not pleased to see him. Why, he demanded, had he come back without Abhiram? Malavanta said he had wanted to be with Srila Prabhupada, and he thought that Abhiram could handle the last steps of getting the green card. Prabhupada reprimanded Balavanta, saying service to the Guru was better than being with him. Then Tamal Krishna left for Delhi to arrange for tickets. When 2 days later, Srila Prabhupada learned that there might be a delay of several days before Tamal Krishna and the other Americans in the party could leave India, he said he could leave immediately without them, taking Shruti Kirti as his servant. Then Prabhupada heard of an airport strike in London, and the night before his scheduled departure, his health worsened. Many devotees urged him not to go, but amazingly, the tickets and passport arrived. And at midnight on August 28th, after a 6-month stay in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada and his party left from the front gate of the Krishna Balaram Mandir and headed for Delhi in a caravan of cars. Just as Prabhupada was leaving, Bisan Chandra Seth, a friend of Prabhupada's in Vrindavan, had come and protested, "It will not be good if something happens to you and you leave your body outside of Vrindavan." Prabhupada told Mr. Seth that because his disciples were so much in love with him, he could not easily refuse their request. If the trip became too difficult, he said he would return immediately. He told Mr. Seth that he was simply depending on Krishna. Prabhupada rode lying on a mattress in the back seat of his car, and after two hours of driving over roads greatly damaged by flooding, they reached Delhi airport. Srila Prabhupada waited in the car. The early morning was warm, and the devotees opened the car doors. Bhavananda Goswami, who had just been released from jail in Bengal, had arrived in time to see Srila Prabhupada. Bhavananda approached the car and placed his head on Srila Prabhupada's feet. "How are you?" Prabhupada asked. Bhavananda reported that everything was improving in Mayapur. All the local sadhus and citizens were now siding with ISKCON against the hoodlums who had attacked the temple. Srila Prabhupada was moved to an airport waiting room prior to going through the custom formalities. About 10 devotees there were to see him off as he left with his party of 4, Tamal Krishna, Upendra, Pradumna, and Pradumna's wife, Arundhati. Srila Prabhupada sat upright on the airport couch, silently fingering the beads in his bead bag. His bare feet resting in his sandals were slightly swollen, as were his hands. He looked to see who was present and slightly nodded to each disciple in recognition. The devotees felt there was no need for Srila Prabhupada to talk, Just being with him was wonderful and fully satisfying. He had already spoken to them fully and had given himself in his books and in many other ways. So they chanted and looked lovingly at him up until the last moment when he went by wheelchair onto the plane. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta, Volume 2, Chapter 53, Krishna's Great Soldier. During the long flight, Srila Prabhupada remained solemn. His servants were helpless to alleviate the difficult situation as they might have in Vrindavan, and cigarette smoke, loud talk, and drunken laughter surrounded them. Tamal Krishna, despite his concern, did not know what to do for Srila Prabhupada or what to ask him. Srila Prabhupada had often expressed a dislike for conversations with questions like, "How are you feeling?" Prabhupada's servants knew that they could not fully understand their spiritual master's thinking, and the scriptures also warned that one should not attempt to understand the mind of the Vaishnava. But they knew their service was to relieve him by arranging for quiet and by assisting him in bathing and dressing, or by taking him to the temple for darshan of Krishna Balaram. Now, however, they were helpless to perform any of these tasks. Now, more than ever, Srila Prabhupada was in Krishna's hands. Earlier that year in Bhubaneswar, he had said that his disciples, although willing to help, could not manage the situation if he was inconvenienced by old age. And he had even given the example that although he might be in his opulent quarters at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, that did not mean he would not suffer inconvenience. But Tamal Krishna, being very sensitive to Prabhupada's desires and experienced in serving him, several times moved over and spoke with his spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, he said, "When you get to London, the devotees will be so pleased to be with you." "Yes," Srila Prabhupada replied, "it is good that we are going." Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada was mostly silent, meditating on Krishna and his mission of bringing love of Krishna to the world. The flight turned out to be an unusually exhaustive ordeal. When the plane landed in Rome, it was delayed there for 4 hours, and Srila Prabhupada had to wait in the airport lounge. When finally they arrived over London, the captain announced that they could not land yet due to the strike, and so they continued circling for hours. Finally, 20 hours after leaving Delhi, the plane landed at Heathrow Airport. Customs and immigration officials and the British Airways ground crew allowed Srila Prabhupada in a wheelchair to quickly pass through all formalities. And soon he was amid a throng of enthusiastic disciples and then sitting in a white Rolls Royce en route to Bhaktivedanta Manor. The London airport and the busy highways leading to the city are certainly a great contrast to the peace and spirituality of Vrindavan. But for Srila Prabhupada to suddenly leave the climate and transcendental culture of India to fly to the West was not unusual. He had been doing that, going from east to west, from north to south, from one nation to another, to the snowlands, to the tropics, to the cities, to the jungles, mixing with white people, black people, Orientals, at an almost constant pace for years. He was no Hindu village guru suddenly astounded to see hundreds of automobiles racing on the highways, or to see factory smoke or skyscrapers, or the blind rat race of the meat eaters. There was no question of culture shock for Srila Prabhupada. But there was a shock for his disciples in London, who had never imagined that he would be so thin, or that anyone could travel in such condition. For the devotees who had been at the airport to meet him, it had been a heart-rending experience. Even those who had heard the reports of Prabhupada in Vrindavan were not emotionally prepared for such a change. Prabhupada was as transcendental as ever, or even more than ever, but the devotees were shocked at first to see him so different. Now he appeared like a powerful sage who had been undergoing long austerities for the benefit of humankind, and who had become transcendental to his bodies, although living within it. At Bhaktivedanta Manor, Srila Prabhupada went from the car to a palanquin and entered the temple room, where about 300 disciples and well-wishers were waiting to be with him. Devotees from all the ISKCON centers in Northern and Southern Europe had rushed to England on last-minute notice. They were holding kirtan for Srila Prabhupada as he entered, and they too, like the devotees at the airport, were deeply shocked. And for a moment, when they saw Srila Prabhupada wearing his dark sunglasses and appearing so thin, the kirtan almost stopped. Yet they simultaneously remained joyful and ecstatic realizing that despite such difficulty, he had actually come to the West to be with them and encourage their Krishna consciousness. They had been praying for him for months. The prayer, "My dear Lord Krishna, if you desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada," had been printed on a banner and hung over Prabhupada's Vyasasana. The devotees of England, wanting to reciprocate with Srila Prabhupada with more than just the sentiment of their words, were also leading the world in transcendental book distribution. When a few weeks ago they had heard that Srila Prabhupada might be coming to England, it hadn't seemed possible considering his physical condition. They had heard he might leave his body at any moment. But then later, they had heard he was better and he was coming to London. Even when they heard he was definitely coming, they had been incredulous, but now it had come true. The Didi room curtains were open, and Srila Prabhupada beheld Radha Gokulananda. Some devotees stood in front of him, and with a small gesture characteristic of his hand, he waved them aside. Without any change of expression, he sat with concentrated attention, facing the gorgeously dressed deities of Radha Gokulananda, whom he had named 4 years ago when calling for them to come and be worshipped here by the devotees of England. Without saying a word, Prabhupada went up to his room, where as many devotees as possible joined him. He had always said he felt comfortably at home in these quarters, and once again he was pleased to see outside his window the large lawn, the lake, and the ducks. The devotees sat before him with their palms folded, aware that this was no casual meeting. They had already offered their lives completely to Srila Prabhupada, and there was nothing more they could offer in words that would equal their dedication. A devotee placed a large silver plate full of prasadam on the table before Srila Prabhupada. He picked up a milk sweet and tasted it, then a piece of mango. The 100 devotees who squeezed into the room and looked in from the doorway watched his every movement with fixed attention. There was complete silence. Then Srila Prabhupada looked up smiling. "So," he said, "is everyone all right?" "Jai Srila Prabhupada," was the warm reply. The tension of seeing Srila Prabhupada's different appearance suddenly melted, and everyone simply wanted to make him feel comfortable and to please him with their service. For the rest of the day, Srila Prabhupada remained alone, resting. Tamal Krishna lectured to the devotees in the temple room, explaining how Srila Prabhupada had decided it was better to travel, even at such great risk, than to be invalid. Tamal Krishna told how someone had suggested Srila Prabhupada go to Tehran or Italy or France because of the airport strike in London. But now he had said, "I want to go to London." "Srila Prabhupada has come to take shelter of you," said Tamal Krishna. He said that according to Shastra, a devotee should stay in Vrindavan, especially at the end of his life. But because Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master had ordered him to go west and preach, he had returned, determined to fulfill that mission until the last. The devotees were deeply touched that Srila Prabhupada's coming was at least partially in recognition of their preaching. They resolved to reciprocate with him while he was there by holding a book distribution marathon. If they showed him their dedication by preaching, maybe he would stay a long time. At 2 o'clock the next morning, Bhagavan and Tamal Krishna went into Srila Prabhupada's quarters to attend him. Srila Prabhupada, who had just awakened, was very pleased to see Bhagavan, his leader from Southern Europe. This is why he had come to the West, to be with his preachers and to be encouraged by them. "Tamal has brought me with great difficulty," said Srila Prabhupada. "It was the correct thing. I thought, what is the use of dying? Better to come. So Krishna Balaram has placed me in the care of Radha Gokulananda." Bhagavan presented Srila Prabhupada with some newly printed books, an Italian Bhagavad Gita as it is, another volume of Srimad Bhagavatam in French, and other books in Dutch. The total book distribution in Europe, Bhagavan reported, had surpassed that of America. "Tamal, did you hear that?" Prabhupada asked. "This is my life. Come here." Srila Prabhupada began rubbing Bhagavan's head, and tears fell from his eyes. "You have no problems," he said to Bhagavan. In his own work on Srila Prabhupada's behalf, Bhagavan had been encountering a rough period, but when Prabhupada said you had no problems, he took it that if he persevered, everything would be all right. As long as he stayed engaged in devotional service, he had no problems. For Bhagavan, there was no need for Prabhupada to say more. Prabhupada's order was already his heart and soul. But now that order and Srila Prabhupada's love entered deeper into his heart. Srila Prabhupada's mood was one of pure thankfulness without his usual critical instructions. He simply wanted to be with his devotees and encourage them. Produce books, said Srila Prabhupada. These books are all the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. No author throughout the world has written so many books. Shakespeare, Milton, Dickens, neither of their books have been so widely read or with such appreciation. When Prabhupada came down to the temple in the morning, all the devotees were able to be with him. Devotees here are all Vaikuntha men, said Srila Prabhupada, good looking and nice dressing. Gokulananda is so beautiful. I shall be glad to die in that condition amongst the devotees and seeing Gokulananda. The devotees had come to see that Prabhupada actually looked very wonderful in his dark sunglasses and freshly pressed silk dhoti and kurta, with clean, clear Vaishnav tilak on his forehead. He would come gliding down the stairs on the palanquin, carefully carried by two able-bodied disciples, and he would sit on a vyasasana and watch them perform kirtan of the holy name. Since he rarely spoke, the kirtan and appreciation of it was the main exchange between him and his disciples. Externally, Srila Prabhupada gave very little indication of even appreciating the kirtan. Those who were standing or dancing near to him, however, could see behind his glasses the tears sprinkling from the corners of his eyes onto his cheeks. And all the devotees chanted and danced, rejoicing in the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada simply wanted to be with them. They knew that although he was a pure devotee and self-satisfied, he could actually be inspired by his disciples' affection, by their intense enthusiasm to serve and praise Krishna under his order. He could become enlivened to stay in the world longer and preach. The devotees in the manor agreed that Radha Gokulananda seemed to be looking especially at Srila Prabhupada, and he was looking especially at them. Some felt that by witnessing Srila Prabhupada and Radha Gokulananda, they were looking directly upon the spiritual world, seeing Krishna and his pure devotee. Therefore, there was no need for talks or demonstrations further than what Srila Prabhupada was giving everyone by coming to be with them in the temple room. Each morning, the kirtans would build enthusiastically. Tamal Krishna asked that the devotees not sing the Guru Puja song because it created too much emotion for Srila Prabhupada. So they chanted the Panchatattva mantra and then Hare Krishna. After half an hour, the singing and chanting would be fervent, and Srila Prabhupada would sometimes tap his thumbs together. Just the slightest movement of his body increased the intensity of the kirtan. Then, with the raising of one finger, Srila Prabhupada set the whole room full of hundreds of devotees into jumping ecstasy. The devotees felt that by chanting Hare Krishna and dancing, they were somehow singing and praying for Srila Prabhupada's good health and continued life. Srila Prabhupada would sit unmoving, but the devotees knew his desires, and many of them continued jumping several feet into the air, almost touching the chandeliers. After a wild transcendental hour of kirtan, Srila Prabhupada would go upstairs again, carried over the heads of the devotees on the palanquin. Then the devotees in London heard that Srila Prabhupada was getting many invitations to go to America, and they began to worry. They were thinking this would be the last time they would see him, and they wanted to keep him with them forever. If they could distribute an incredible number of books, then maybe he would live longer and stay longer at Bhaktivedanta Manor. They were already feeling privileged that Srila Prabhupada had chosen their temple out of all others, and as they spoke among themselves, they concluded that Radha London Ishwara and Radha Gokulananda must be Prabhupada's favorite deities. They realized that aside from chanting and serving, there was nothing they could do to help Srila Prabhupada and keep him with them, and this inability made them helpless. Despite their efforts, everything was up to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada confided in his secretary,